Salt stung the air above Dragonstone's jagged-toothed cliffs, drifting inland on a wind that smelled of brine and storm and secrets. Rhaegal's emerald wings beat against that wind in slow, deliberate sweeps, each downstroke rattling the crenellations atop the ancient fortress. Jon Snow stood upon the parapet in muted awe, the salt spray dampening the wool fur collar of the black cloak Arya had stitched for him before the march south. He had seen the dragon soar 100 times before, but never with the calm clarity that now consumed him. Rhaegal, named for the brother Jon had never known, should have died upon the spears of Euron Greyjoy's fleet. Yet there he flew, whole and hale, the rippling membrane of his wings mended by time and quiet care. There was something providential in it, Jon thought. Something that whispered of chance set aside in favor of design. The maesters claimed a man could gaze upon a dragon only so long before the mind balked its scale and flame and impossible creation. Jon felt the strain now, a tremor at the base of his skull, as though some unseen hand pressed knowledge of the beast directly into his bones. Rhaegal banked, eyes like molten copper fixing upon the lone figure on the battlements. A beat of wings carried him lower. Wind crashed over Jon. He did not flinch. Instead, he lifted a gloved hand in the old Valyrian salute. He had seen Daenerys offer, palm out. Fingers relaxed, nothing aggressive. A greeting, not a command. He thought he saw recognition flicker across the reptilian gaze. A flash of memory shared in smoke and spring sky. Rhaegal roared, a low, resonant rumble, more felt than heard, then ascended, vanishing behind roiling cloud. Jon exhaled. Somewhere behind him, boots scraped over stone. He turned to find Varys, his round face pale beneath the hood of a mouse-gray cloak. The eunuch's expression was one of cautious wonder. "Your Grace," Varys began, inflection gentle, respectful. He insisted upon the title now, though Jon still bristled each time he heard it. "I could swear Rhaegal knows you." "It isn't knowing," Jon replied, eyes still on the sky. "Just remembrance. I was near him often enough at Winterfell." "Near him, yes," Varys allowed, "but never with such serenity." Dragons sense their rider's heart. Rhaegal's heart may be looking elsewhere. Jon shifted uncomfortably. "He has a rider." "Does he?" Varys' tone was light, but the words cut. "Her Grace has one dragon, Drogon, whom she treats like the beating heart of her own cause. Rhaegal lingers on the perch, waiting perhaps." Jon had no answer. He pulled his cloak tighter, warding off a chill that rose from within. The conversation teetered on treason, yet the narrow sea of silence between them felt strangely welcome. Varys took the pause for permission. "The war is over," he said softly, as if afraid the castle itself might hear. "Yet Queen Daenerys' war never ends. King's Landing burns still in her memory. She will not forgive. She will not slow. I fear she will only scorch what remains." Jon closed his eyes and saw the red keep wreathed in cinders, the small folk screaming, ash drifting like blackened snow. He had tried to forget the stench of charred flesh. Memory clung, stubborn as resin. Daenerys blamed Cersei's cruelty, the Lannister scorpions, the rebel lords who opposed her claim. She insisted violence had forged her resolve. Yet Jon feared the dragonfire had forged something darker still, a thing with wings and claws, and no room for mercy. "What would you have me do?" he asked. "Save her," Varys said, and now there was sorrow in the eunuch's eyes. "Or failing that, save the realm." He bowed, cloak whispering. "Winterfell will follow your lead. The Stormlands and the Riverlands too, if you ask them kindly. We must offer the Queen a future free of fear. If she refuses, we must ensure that refusal does not doom the innocent." He left Jon with nothing but the sigh of waves and the distant screech of gulls. Evening settled slow and violet upon Dragonstone. Daenerys Targaryen walked the corridors alone, hand-trailing walls carved by Valyrian masons long dead. In the great hall, a fire roared, but the warmth could not soften the steel beneath her ribs. She was restless, Drogon's absence felt like an itch along her spine. He hunted far across the sea tonight, heedless of her desire for company. Rhaegal remained, though she had not flown him since before Euron's ambush. His saddle still bore the blood-black scars where scorpion bolts had torn through hide. Tyrion Lannister awaited her by the hearth, clutching a goblet of Dornish red. He gave a perfunctory nod as she entered. "You missed council," she said. "You cancelled council," Tyrion replied, taking a draught. It seemed kinder to appear absent than supervise an empty table. Her voice cooled. "The lords know my mind. Cersei's loyalists must be purged. The sooner King's Landing learns the new order, the sooner peace will take root. Then, Dawa. Peace does not germinate in ash," Tyrion muttered. "Or so the histories say." She ignored the barb. "You are Hand of the Queen, Tyrion. Stand with me." "I have stood with you since Meereen," he said softly. "I will not move now, but I must speak plainly. You terrify the realm." Daenerys' violet gaze hardened. Tyrion hurried on. "The common folk tell tales. The Silver Queen who feeds rebels to her dragon. They fear you will raise every holdfast that questions your decree. Then, if they bend the knee, they will live." She stepped nearer, voice low. "I promised them a better world. The old one caged us in cruelty. I broke that cage. I will not rebuild it out of timid mercy." Tyrion sighed. "Mercy is never timid. It is brave. It asks you to curb fire when fire feels simplest." He drained his goblet. "You are not your father." She flinched, then smiled. "Thin, brittle, but I carry his blood. Do not think I forget how the realm betrayed my house for Robert's usurper's crown." She turned, staring into the blaze. "They will learn loyalty." Tyrion placed the empty goblet on the mantel. "Loyalty is earned, not learned." "You speak as if I haven't earned it," she said, sudden anger sharpening the words. "Slaver's Bay is free. The Dothraki follow me across the sea. I faced the Night King while southern lords drank arbor gold in their halls." She spun. "Who challenges my deeds?" "No one," Tyrion whispered. "The question is what deeds yet to come might unwrite all you have done." She laughed once. Harsh, weary. "You worry too much, my friend." She brushed a strand of silver from her brow. "In time, they will sing of Dragonfire as deliverance." Tyrion said nothing. Daenerys strode past him toward the balcony, where night spread like ink across the narrow sea. Stars spangled the dark. Somewhere beyond, Drogon's silhouette eclipsed the moon, an omen she could neither name nor deny. Winterfell's godswood stood hushed beneath a frosted dawn. Bran the Broken, king of stories, keeper of secrets, waited in his wheeled chair beneath the weeping heart tree. The faces carved by ancient hands watched, tears of sap gleaming. Sansa Stark approached through snow-soft grass, furs rustling. Her crown glimmered red gold in early light. "You saw him," she said without greeting. "Jon, I see many things," Bran murmured, eyes pale as morning sky. "But yes, our brother is troubled." Daenerys tightens her fist around King's Landing, Sansa said. Ravens whisper of executions. Gold cloaks replaced by unsullied in every district. She speaks of a new order, but it feels like chains. And now, Bran's gaze lifted to unseen distances. Chains can be gilded and still remain chains. Sansa knelt beside him, voice low. "Will Jon bend? Or will he break?" "Bending and breaking are seldom opposites," Bran said. "Sometimes a man must bow before he shatters. Sometimes he shatters so he may stand unbowed." Sansa exhaled frost. "You speak in riddles." "Because the threads are tangled." Bran's fingers traced the armrest. "Rhaegal lives. The green dragon mirrors Jon's soul. Wild, wounded, yet seeking purpose. Their fates dance close. Wow. What must I do?" Bran looked at her, truly looked, and Sansa felt the weight of centuries flicker in his stare. "Hold the north. Guard its heart. If war comes, we will need a hearth for hope." She nodded. The wind stirred red leaves overhead, a quiet applause of flesh and wood. On Dragonstone's landing yard, Rhaegal crouched in the lee of a basalt ridge. Jon approached warily, gloved hand brushing the warm, ridged hide. The dragon's breath smelled of lightning and distant fires. He murmured wordless comfort, voice hoarse with wonder. Rhaegal's great head lowered, cheek pressing against Jon's chest with surprising gentleness. The weight near drove him to his knees. Tears stung Jon's eyes, ghostly memories of Nymeria's shaggy warmth, of Ghost's soft growl, of companions lost. He had once thought himself alone, the last of something half-imagined. Now a living furnace leaned into him, seeking a bond older than houses and oaths. His palm splayed over emerald scale. In that moment Jon felt the shape of his destiny. No crown, no throne, but a bridge of flesh and flame, spanning fire and ice. Footsteps scattered gravel behind him. He turned to find Daenerys, silver hair loose in the wind. Her expression was unreadable. "He lets you touch him," she said simply. Jon stepped back, guilt flushing his cheeks. "My queen. Its name is Rhaegal." She interrupted, eyes never leaving the dragon. "He was named for my brother, and my brother's blood runs in you." She met Jon's gaze. Perhaps he senses the bond. Jon swallowed. "He is yours." Daenerys smiled, but sorrow warped the curve of her lips. Dragons are not possessions. They choose who they will fly. She reached to stroke a horn ridge. Rhaegal accepted the touch, but his gaze drifted back to Jon. "I have not flown him since the ambush. Perhaps he no longer trusts me." "Dragons do not lose trust," Jon said gently. "They feel pain. They remember." "And men do not?" she asked. The question lingered heavy between them. "The realm recoils from me. They bow and call me savior, but fear flickers behind their eyes." She clenched her fists. "It is the only language they understand. Fear kept my house alive for centuries. It also destroyed it," Jon whispered. Her eyes flared. "My father's madness destroyed it, not my will." Jon's gaze did not waver. "But the realm sees a dragon and remembers wildfire beneath the Red Keep." She stepped closer, fire dancing in her eyes. "Would you have me disarm? Let lions and snakes and petty lords plot while the people suffer?" She shook her head. "They crucified children along the coast of Slaver's Bay. They chained women in King's Landing's brothels. They burned my Dothraki alive. I ended that. I will end more." Tears shone unshed. Westeros deserves mercy too vast to be gentle. Jon's heart ached. Mercy built on terror rots. Folk will kneel while the dragon hovers, but stand the moment it flies away. She laid a hand upon his chest. "Then stay with me. Help me guide them." He felt her warmth, the tremor of passion and loneliness entwined. But beyond his ribs, another warmth pulsed. Rhaegal's breath, an echo of something ancient. Jon looked at the horizon, toward Winterfell's unseen snowfields, toward the weirwoods, toward the promise of hearthfire free of chains. He could not name the choice yet, but felt its shape. Two paths locked in collision. "I will help," he said at last, "but only if the realm is free to speak without fear." She studied him, searching. "Will you sit by my side?" "I will stand," he answered, "until I can kneel for a queen who hears the people's truth." She withdrew her hand. "You already knelt once, and I would again, if I believed the realm safe in that kneel." Silence. Rhaegal shifted, wings rustling. Daenerys stepped back, pain flickering across her face like storm-lit waves. Without another word, she turned and walked toward the fortress. Jon reached to stop her, but his hand fell useless to his side. Rhaegal nuzzled him, their breath mingling in the cold. That night, beneath a hunter's moon, Tyrion sought Jon in the old smithy beyond the courtyard. The forge lay cold, yet iron tang clung to the air. Jon hammered practice, strokes upon an anvil. Sparks flying as steel met steel in futile rhythm. Breaking swords won't mend the crown, Tyrion observed. Jon paused, wiping sweat from his brow. The crown is already broken. Tyrion leaned against a barrel, stunted legs dangling. Then we must decide whether to reforge. A roar split the sky. Both men rushed outside. Drogon's vast silhouette spiraled overhead, crimson eyes catching the moon. He circled once, twice, then descended beyond the northern ridge, where unsullied torches guttered in alarm. "Something's wrong," Jon said. They sprinted toward the noise. Twisting corridors opened to the landing yard. There Drogon crouched, wings mantled around a figure who knelt at his clawed feet. "Daenerys," she sobbed openly, shoulders shaking. Unsullied formed a hesitant ring beyond the dragon's reach. Spears lowered, but trembling. Tyrion halted. "We should be careful." Jon pushed forward. Rhaegal soared from the darkness, smashing down between Drogon and the line of spears, protective. Jon ducked beneath his wings, sliding beside Daenerys. "What happened?" he asked. She raised tear-swollen eyes. "Varys. He plots to betray me." In her hand lay a roll of parchment. Raven's drafts, sealed with wax. "He writes to every lord he can name. He tells them of my madness. He tells them you are Aegon Targaryen, true heir." Jon's blood drained cold. "My heritage is no weapon. For them it is." Rage quaked in her voice. "He would tear down everything we've built." She rose unsteadily, Drogon shifting to steady her. "I will have justice." Jon caught her wrist. "Justice, not vengeance." She glared. "Varys has chosen treason, and we've chosen to kill every traitor without question?" Jon demanded. "We fought the dead to give the living a choice." His choice was clear. She wrenched free. "Tyrion, find him." The dwarf flinched beneath her gaze. "He is your friend. If you value his life, bring him before me willingly." She turned to Jon. "And you, decide where you stand. With me, or with those who whisper in shadows." "Ben?" She mounted Drogon. The dragon launched skyward in a hurricane of wind. Rhaegal lifted, following. The sudden vacuum of air left Jon kneeling, heart pounding. Tyrion's face sagged with despair. "I once told you I believed in her," he said quietly. "I still do, but belief is water through fingers." Jon rose. "We have to act before the flame consumes everything." "Act how?" Tyrion asked. Jon's answer came, grim and certain. "We must stop her, or save her. And Rhaegal may be the only chance we have." Then, far beneath the fortress in a disused wine cellar, Varys dipped quill to ink with calm deliberation. Candlelight flickered over parchments already sealed. Footsteps echoed beyond the oaken door. He sighed. There was never time enough. The door creaked open. Tyrion entered, face carved from grief. "I hoped it would be you," Varys said. "She knows," Tyrion replied. "I suspected as much." Varys folded his hands, ink drying upon fingertips. "She cannot be allowed to rule." Tyrion blinked against tears. "She freed me from a cross. She believed in my worth. And no. Yet she becomes the thing we fled." Varys said gently, "You must choose." "I have chosen," Tyrion whispered, stepping aside. Jon Snow emerged from the gloom. Varys inclined his head. "Your Grace." "Call me Jon," he said. "As you wish." Varys smiled. Small and sad. "I bear you no ill. The realm must hear your voice." Jon shook his head. "I want no crown. Yet you wear one in blood." Varys spread his hands. "Daenerys cannot bear dissent. When she feels threatened, she burns. She will burn again." Jon's voice cracked. "She can change. Tell a storm to change direction." Varys gathered parchments into a satchel. "The choice before us is mercy or catastrophe." Jon's fists clenched. "There must be another road." "There is." Varys extended the satchel. "Letters, truths bound by ink. If enough lords speak together, perhaps Daenerys will temper her flame." He paused. "Or perhaps she will be forced from the field without fire and blood." Jon stared at the satchel. weight of worlds in coarse cloth. He saw ravaged streets of Meereen, heard screams beneath King's Landing's shattered bells. He thought of Daenerys touched beneath the moon, and he imagined a realm where dragons soared, but never scorched a single home. "I will take them," he said. Varys handed them over. "Then the wind moves. Pray it blows gentle." At that moment, unsullied voices barked in Valyrian outside. Iron-shod feet thundered down the stairwell. Tyrion's face blanched. "It has begun," Varys murmured. Grey Worm burst in, spear leveled. Behind him, 2 rankers advanced. "Lord Varys?" Grey Worm intoned. "The Queen summons you." Varys nodded. "I am ready." Tyrion stepped forward. "No chains." Grey Worm hesitated, then obeyed. Varys straightened robes, smoothing the silk. "It is all right, old friend," he told Tyrion. "I only wish I'd served you better." Turning to Jon, he bowed. "Your Grace, remember, every step shapes the road." Jon could not speak. They led Varys away. On the beach below Dragonstone, torches burned in a ring around a single stake driven into wet sand. The nighttime sea hissed like 1,000 serpents, tossing foam across black rock. Daenerys stood with Drogon looming behind her, wings furling, eyes ablaze. Varys was brought forth. He regarded the queen calmly, no pleading in him. "You betrayed me," Daenerys said. "I serve the realm," Varys replied. She nodded to Grey Worm. Unsullied bound Varys to the stake. The eunuch looked skyward, lips moving in silent prayer. Jon watched from the queen's side, Rhaegal perched upon a cliff above, eyes glowing green. Tyrion stepped forward. "It was me," the dwarf confessed, voice hushed. "I told her of your letters." Varys smiled faintly. "I hope I deserve this." Tyrion's eyes shimmered. He clasped Varys' hand briefly, then stepped back. Daenerys drew a breath. "Dracarys." Drogon opened his jaws. Flame fountained. Searing gold, roaring white. Varys disappeared in a torrent of fire. The air shrieked. Jon's heart convulsed. When the blaze faded, naught remained but blackened bone and melted iron. Silence fell heavy. Waves lapped at charred sand. Daenerys turned to Jon, eyes luminous with something between triumph and despair. "Now they know." She whispered, "Let them choose loyalty." Jon stared at smoldering ash, lips parted, soul shuddering. Rhaegal roared from above, an echo of grief perhaps, or warning. The wind smelled of burning flesh once more. Sleep eluded Jon. He wandered Dragonstone's courtyards, raven parchment heavy beneath his cloak. Rhaegal followed at a distance, slithering shadow among ruins. At dawn, Jon saddled a horse and rode to the island's western bluff, where wildflowers clung stubbornly to windswept stone. He opened the satchel. Letters addressed to lords great and small. Broken wax bore the spider's seal. He lit a lantern, intending to burn them. The flame flickered. Hungry. He hesitated. If he destroyed the letters, Daenerys might reign but lives might still be saved. If he could steer her heart. If he sent them, war could erupt, but without dragons above the gates. Fire or blood, Varys' grim prophecy. A gust snuffed the lantern. Jon sighed. Choice postponed. Hoofbeats approached. He turned to find Davos Seaworth, cloaked against the chill. "Thought I might find you brooding alone," Davos said. Jon managed a weak smile. "Is that what I do?" "Often as not." D. Davos dismounted, scanning the horizon. "Ravens come from King's Landing," lords grumble. "They fear more burnings." "They are right to fear," Jon murmured. Davos studied him. "What will you do?" Jon opened the satchel. "Tell the truth." Davos eyed the parchments. "Truth is a river. Wide. Unruly. Hard to bridge." Jon nodded. "Still, we must try." Davos placed a hand on his shoulder. "Whatever you decide, you won't be alone." Above them, wings thundered. Rhaegal landed on the bluff, shaking wildflowers from their roots. He bent low, eyes upon Jon, offering. Jon's throat tightened. Davos whistled low. "Seven, save us." Jon stepped forward, one trembling hand upon emerald scale. "He chose. Then the gods chose too," Davos said. Jon turned to his friend. "Gather the north. Quietly. Tell Sansa to prepare." Davos inclined his head. "And you?" Jon swung into the ridge between Rhaegal's neck spines. Wind whipped his cloak. "I will bring Daenerys peace, or I will end her war." Rhaegal leaped, wings pounding air, stone exploding beneath his talons. The dragon climbed into the morning sky, carrying a bastard king toward fate. Daenerys stood before the painted table, candlelight illuminating continents in ghostly green. Tyrion entered, hesitant. "Your Grace," he began, but she did not look up. "I freed the slaves of Meereen," she said. "I broke the cowls upon their own spears. I gave Winterfell my armies to stand against the dead. Yet they hate me." "They fear you," Tyrion corrected gently. "Hate, fear, salt and iron." She traced Dragonstone with a fingertip. "Fear can grow into worship. Hate can wither into silence." Tyrion swallowed. "Silence is not loyalty." She glanced up. "You stand against me." "I stand with the living," he replied. "All of them." She shook her head, silver locks falling over her cheeks. "You counsel half measures. We tried mercy." Cersei answered with scorpion bolts. Varys answered with betrayal. "How many last chances must I give?" "Then they're all enough to prove we're different," Tyrion said. "We are different," she whispered. "I am the only one." She moved to the window, voice lost in howl of wind. "The people follow strength. They follow power. When Drogon roars, they kneel. That is mercy. Swift, clear. No doubt, no war." Tyrion stepped closer. "If power alone could rule, the Night King would sit the Iron Throne." She stiffened, turning. "The Night King offered death. I offer life. Life under fear is only another kind of death." Daenerys' eyes shimmered. "Then teach me a different way." She seemed fragile in that moment, a woman cornered by ghosts. "Tell me how to save them without ruling them." Tyrion exhaled. "Listen to Jon." Tears welled. "Jon cannot see the fire in me without turning cold. He looks at me and remembers ashes." She hugged herself. "He is ice. I am flame. We were never meant to meld." A distant roar rolled through stone. Tyrion's heart thudded. Daenerys strode onto the balcony. Rhaegal's silhouette emerged from the clouds. Green wings catching sunlight, Jon astride. Daenerys gasped. "He rides him." Awe warred with terror. Drogon shrieked above, banking into formation beside his brother. Two dragons spiraled around the fortress, the living sigils of two Targaryens. One crowned in silver, one cloaked in black. Tyrion whispered. "Change rides the wind." Jon dismounted in the courtyard, boots pounding cobble. Unsullied leveled spears. One growled an order, but Jon raised a placating hand. "I come for the queen." Grey Worm appeared. Face stone. "Leave weapons." Jon unbelted Longclaw, handing the Valyrian steel to Davos, who had arrived on a smaller drake of resolve rather than scale. Grey Worm escorted Jon through corridors that echoed with restless dread. In the throne chamber, Daenerys awaited, crown of blackened steel atop silver hair. Thorny sunlight lanced through narrow windows, splintering shadows across the floor. Jon approached, every step thunder on his heart. Daenerys studied him, expression unreadable. "You ride my brother's namesake," she said softly. "He chose me," Jon answered. She descended the dais. "You choose him as well?" "I choose the realm." Pain flickered across her face. "Then you stand against me." "I stand beside you," he insisted. "But never behind fear." She halted inches away. "Fear is all they will give me." "Then give them something else." Jon withdrew a single parchment. "Varys' letter to Lady Jon Royce. The truth. Tell them you will not rule with fire again." Daenerys' gaze dropped to the scroll. "They will say you are the rightful king." Let them. Jon crushed the parchment in his fist. I want no throne. You say that? She whispered, leaning closer. But the realm will demand it. They will carve a crown from your reluctance. Then we refuse, Jon said, voice trembling. We reign together, dragon and wolf, ice and fire, balance. We let the lords govern their lands. We protect the peace. She searched his eyes. You would share the throne? I would burn it for peace, he breathed. She laughed, a choked sob. The wheel turns. Only fire can melt its spokes. Not fire, Jon said. A dragon's shadow without the flame. Her lips parted in wonder. Jon pressed on. We fly together to King's Landing. Rhaegal and Drogon above the city. We land before the Red Keep. We proclaim a charter. No lord may hold the throne without the consent of realm and people. We dissolve the Iron Throne. We build councils. Small, great, and small folk alike. You lead the first council. I lead the watch against threats beyond. No more burning, no more bending. Choice, Daenerys. Choice. Dendo. Tears slid down her cheeks. As a girl, I dreamed only of home. The Red Keep, the Iron Chair. My brother's crown. She grasped Jon's hand. Home is a thing I have never known. Would you truly give me one? With you, he whispered. Never above you. She closed her eyes. Behind them, Tyrion appeared in the doorway. Hope blooming. Grey Worm's spear lowered. Daenerys opened her eyes. Resolve glimmered. Then prove it, she said. Stand before the realm and renounce any claim. Declare me queen, co-regent, if you must. But the line of succession must remain Targaryen. Promise me that. Jon hesitated. The realm fears what name sits upon the throne. It cannot be only Targaryen or Stark. It must be something new. Daenerys' grip tightened. Promise me. Jon's mind spun. Stark honor, Targaryen fire. Duty to living. I promise peace, he said. She released him, taking a step back. Words are shields, she whispered. But I need swords. She turned away, cloak swirling. You have until sunrise to decide. Meet me atop the western tower. We will fly to King's Landing together, or not at all. She departed, footsteps echoing. Jon watched her leave, uncertainty a blade at his throat. Tyrion approached. You gave her hope, Tyrion said. Hope can burn too, Jon murmured. But it can also light, Tyrion countered. Hold to it. Jon gazed through a slit window where crimson sunset bled across the sea. Rhaegal coasted upon thermals, Drogon shadowing him. Two dragons at peace. Perhaps the realm might echo them. But promises held power equal to flame. And dawn approached swift. Night deepened. Jon climbed to Rhaegal's perch, the dragon's breath a low rumble. He stroked warm scale. What would you do? He asked. The dragon blinked. Jon sighed. I know. Fly. Always forward. Boots clacked behind him. Sansa emerged from the darkness, cloak dusted with salt. Jon's eyes widened. How? A gull ship from White Harbor, she said, smiling faintly. Davos sent word. Jon embraced her. She held him fiercely. You look exhausted, she murmured. Long days, he admitted. Longer nights. Her gaze took in Rhaegal. He is magnificent. He is choice, Jon said softly. Sansa's eyes sharpened. Tell me. Jon told her everything. Varys' letters, Daenerys' terror. The promise of a crownless peace. Sansa listened, expression shifting between yearning and dread. Can she yield? Sansa asked when he finished. She might, Jon said. And if she does not? Jon looked away. Then we must stop her. Sansa's hand touched his cheek. I trust you, Jon. But whatever you choose, remember the North watches. She kissed his brow. Do not let fire rule. He closed his eyes. Never again. Dawn painted the sky rose and gold. Jon ascended the western tower. Daenerys waited in a simple white gown, hair braided with silver rings. A queen prepared for Dawn's judgment. Drogon perched behind her. Rhaegal landed opposite. Wind tugged their cloaks. "Choose," she said. Jon stepped forward, voice steady. "I will fly with you, but I will not kneel to fear." She smiled, tears shining. "Then let us fly to hope." They mounted their dragons. Sun crested the sea, gilding wings. With a roar, the beasts launched skyward. Castle walls fell away. Air thundered across scale. Jon's heart soared, half in terror, half in reverence. Rhaegal matched Drogon wingbeat for wingbeat, two flames stitched to a single horizon. Far below, Tyrion and Sansa stood side by side, watching as green and black shapes shrank into dawn. In their hands they clutched scrolls. One a charter Jon had drafted in the dark hours, promising an end to tyrants' crowns. The other, a northern proclamation pledging fealty not to thrones, but to peace. The wind was rising. Far to the south, King's Landing's domes and spires awaited the dragon's shadow. And in that rising light, the world held its breath, balanced on the edge of fire, trembling toward a bloodless dawn. Approximately 60,200 characters. K. Dawn's hush dissolved into a hush of alarm as the twin dragons coasted above King's Landing, each sweep of their wings sending shuddering ripples across the Blackwater Bay. Fishermen abandoned nets. Harbor hands froze mid-knot. The ringing of the city's sunrise bells faltered and died beneath the chorus of beating air. Drogon's sable shadow devoured whole streets, but it was Rhaegal's green-gold silhouette that truly stilled the murmurs. For two dragons meant debate, divergence, choices unimagined since Aegon and his sisters first leaned from saddles of shifting scale. The small folk, who had cowered beneath Drogon's inferno weeks before, hovered in doorways now, terrified, yes, but struck also by bewildered hope. Something about the symmetry overhead promised change, though no one could say whether change would bless or break them. Jon sat astride Rhaegal's broad neck, the chill of morning wind slicing tears from the corners of his eyes. His gloved hand lay calm upon a ridge of hardened scale. Ahead, Daenerys rode Drogon as a queen carved from sunrise, white gown snapping about her frame, silver braids whipping like battle pennants. She glanced across the gulf of air between their mounts. Jon met her eyes. They shared a single nod, frail, necessary, binding. Below, King's Landing bristled. Unsullied phalanxes funneled civilians away from the palace district. Shields locked in silent coordination. Lannister garrison remnants massed uncertainly at the gate of the gods. Bright red cloaks now faded by ash, and months of uneasy occupation. In narrow alleys, whispers scuttled faster than rats. The Dragon Queen returns, but the wolf sits the second saddle. Which breath will scorch, which will shield? Daenerys chose the wide expanse of the dragon pit as their landing ground. Symbolic, Jon realized, for here Targaryen might once broke horses from flame. She brought Drogon down in a thunder of claws on shattered tiles. Jon guided Rhaegal to settle beside the larger beast, careful to keep wingtips from tangling. The roar of displaced air drove clouds of dust skyward. By the time it settled, a semicircle of Unsullied had already formed around their queen. Spears braced, helms silver bright under sun. Jon swung to earth and inhaled the city's stench, still tinged with burnt timber, but alive with bread ovens, sea rot, horse sweat, humanity. He remembered the night Rhaegal's flame had spiraled through winter's storm to defeat the dead. He remembered, too, the day Drogon's fire had reduced the Red Keep to molten ruin. Today, fire must bend. Grey Worm strode forward, fist to chest. The dragon pit is secure, your grace. The hand awaits beyond the arch. His eyes flicked to Jon with unreadable weight. Daenerys dismounted, boots crunching pulverized slate. She surveyed the dusty amphitheater, cracked pillars, weed-choked stands, broken marble where dragons once slept chained. The old world she said softly, scarcely above a breath. But perhaps not the new. She beckoned Jon forward. He fell into step beside her, pulse thunderous yet resolute. Tyrion stood at the arch, sandaled feet leaving lonely tracks. Behind him gathered Davos Seaworth, Gendry Baratheon, lord of scarcely acknowledged Storm's End, and a knot of river lords bearing banners singed but still vibrant. Arya stalked near the periphery, gray leathers blending into shadow. Jon's heart jolted to see her, but she lifted 2 fingers in brief greeting and melted back behind a crumbled wall. Sansa had remained on ships in the harbor with Manderly men, a reserve force should the city spurn them. Tyrion bowed. "Your graces," he greeted, voice tight. "Lord Gendry brings 30 trebuchet crews who swore for Robert once and will swear again if given cause. Lord Piper stands for the Riverlands, Lord Mooton for the Crown Lands. Yet each seeks assurance. They will bend knee only to a throne that vows restraint." Daenerys studied Gendry's broad face, Robert's blunt features tempered by a curiosity that had never lived in the father. "What holds Storm's End, Lord Gendry, if not storms?" she asked. "Hope, your grace," he answered, squaring shoulders. "Hope that your dragons might guard more than terrify." She turned to Jon. Silence pooled. Jon stepped forward, voice carrying, though every sinew trembled. "You fear dragonfire," he told the gathered lords. "So do I. I saw what flame can do when rage guides it. But we are here in peace and proof." He opened his cloak, revealing no sword at his hip. "Longclaw remains sheathed upon my ship. We wield only words today." Davos cleared his throat. Words sharper than steel if misused. Tyrion's eyes flicked to Daenerys. She lifted her chin. "I bring no scorpions," she said. "No catapults. No wildfire. Only fire that will sleep unless wakened by treachery. And I will judge treachery not by dissent." Here her gaze softened upon Jon, but by cruelty. A murmur rippled. Lord Piper stepped forward. "Then name cruelty, your grace. Some call any resistance cruelty. Others call burning a city street by street the same." Daenerys inhaled. "Cruelty is harm without justice. It is punishment without trial. It is the strong crushing the weak because they can." She swept an arm to Drogon, who crouched behind her, wings draped like a mantle. "This strength shall not crush. It will shield the weak from those who would." Eyes widened. Some nodded. Gendry knelt first, hammer sigil gleaming upon jerkin. "Storm's End swears to a shield," he said. Others followed. Yet not all. One lord, Sir Lyman Mallister, maintained crossed arms. Jon saw defiance, but also fear. He addressed him. "Speak doubt, and we will answer." Mallister swallowed. "I lost 4 sons to dragonfire beneath these very stands years ago, when Queen Rhaella's handlers lost control of a fledgling. Words are ashes on my tongue." His voice cracked. "What vow men's charred bone?" Daenerys' gaze softened. "There is no balm I can promise equal to your loss. Only that no parent again lose sons at a dragon's whim." She turned to Jon, and her next words surprised even him. "I therefore decree the order of the dragon pit. No dragon shall take flight above the city unaccompanied by both sovereigns' consent. 2 riders, 2 oaths, else the sky remains empty." Jon nodded slowly, heart twisting. The lords exchanged glances. Something new had been born. Tyrion exhaled a breath laden with relief. "Shall we proceed to the Red Keep foundations?" he asked. "The courtyard has been cleared for assembly." Daenerys hesitated, eyes on the distant spires, charred skeletons of her once coveted throne. Then she inclined her head. "Let the people witness." The procession advanced through King's Landing's battered arteries. Unsullied marched at front and flank, whisper still, shields reflecting morning glare. Behind them, the coalition of northern riders and river knights kept uneasy pace. Small folk lined windows and rooftop edges, children balanced upon barrels to glimpse scaled myths strolling like war horses. But Drogon and Rhaegal did not breathe flame. They padded with heavy caution through the wider avenues, looming yet strangely subdued, heads turning to study giggling babes, widows clutching icons, sellswords fingering hilts. Jon caught an old woman's gaze, eyes pale with cataracts but bright with something fiery. She lifted trembling fingers to trace the sign of the 7 upon her breast. Jon nodded. She did not flinch. That, he decided, was a victory more precious than banners. They reached Aegon's high hill before the sun crowned the sky. The charred remnants of the Red Keep sprawled like a cliff of obsidian ruins. Masonry crews, already at work for weeks under Davos oversight, paused to watch. Scaffolds and cranes froze in midair. The great courtyard, cleared of rubble, now served as impromptu forum. A low platform of oak had been raised at its center, ringed by constables, carpenters, smiths, any who could claim stake in the city's rebirth. Tyrion climbed the platform first, face wan but voice steady. "People of King's Landing," he began, projecting with surprising strength for a dwarf half lost in shadows. "Today we stand not before a throne but upon its ashes." He gestured to the sodden ruin. "Ashes that remind us power may blaze, but it may also blind." He paused, letting hush swell. "2 dragon riders come to bind flame with mercy. Hear them, then choose." Daenerys ascended. Sun catching silver hair. She placed bare palm upon fractured marble, salvaged from the throne room floor. "Once I longed to sit a chair forged from fear," she said. "But fear built these ruins. I will never again plant seeds in ash." She raised her voice. "Instead, I plant covenant." She reached into a satchel Grey Worm offered, and produced a parchment tube, sealed blue. Unfurling it, she read, "Charter of the 7 Kingdoms, first clause. The Iron Throne is dissolved." Gasps flared like sparks. She waited, gaze sweeping faces. "In its place shall sit a great council of equal vol." A twang cleaved air. Tyrion shouted. Jon lunged. A crossbow bolt whistled toward Daenerys' chest, too swift, but Rhaegal's roar knifed across the courtyard. The world blurred. Emerald wings closed around Daenerys, mere heartbeats before impact. The bolt clanged off diamond-hard scale and clattered to stone. Chaos erupted. Unsullied spears snapped outward, ranks closing like steel jaws. Drogon wheeled, a demon of black fury, jaws leaking smoke. Jon shoved through bodies to Daenerys' side. She stood unbloodied, Rhaegal's wing a living shield. Her eyes, however, had gone ice-pale. She stepped into open, gaze tracking the bolt's path to a second-story gallery in a half-ruined tower. A lone archer fumbled to notch another quarrel. "Lannister colors on tattered cloak, D." Grey Worm growled an order. 8 Unsullied sprinted for the tower. Tyrion raised both hands. "Alive," he cried. "Alive for trial." Grey Worm did not reply, but the Unsullied reached the door moments later. Drogon's rage simmered. Smoke curled from nostrils, heat enough that nearby thatch crackled. Jon planted himself before the dragon's maw, meeting crimson eyes with steady command. "Peace," he murmured. "Peace, great heart." He dared to place a hand on glossy scale. Drogon's growl receded, not gone, but leashed. Daenerys climbed the platform anew. Her voice cut the pandemonium. "See," she declared, "how even stone hearts still beat for vengeance? Yet vengeance is a poor mason. The wall it builds falls on friend and foe alike." She gestured to Drogon, now settling, to Rhaegal, who folded wings but kept wary glare on high windows. "These dragons obey restraint, as must we all." The courtyard steadied. Tyrion exhaled. Jon gave Daenerys a fleeting crooked smile filled with quiet pride. She returned a ghost of it. Minutes later, the Unsullied dragged the captured archer, a gaunt boy scarcely older than Arya, onto the platform. His face bled where masonry dust had cut him during the struggle. Daenerys regarded him. "Why?" He spat, fear mingled with fury. "My brothers died beneath your beast's fire," he hissed. "You slew them like cattle. I would pay you in kind." Her lashes fluttered. She addressed the crowd. What punishment does such an act of vengeance deserve? Murmurs, death, chains, mercy. Daenerys waited until hush returned. Then she spoke to the boy. You seek justice for deaths by flame. If I kill you, some other will seek justice for your death. She gestured to scaffold teams. Instead, you will aid in rebuilding what flame destroyed. Bare stone, hall timber. When the keep's new hall rises, you will stand before its door and welcome all houses, until you have greeted as many souls as those you feel I took from you. Then you may go. The boy stared, bewildered. Jon stepped forward and cut the ropes binding him. Work with honor, he said. The boy, shaking, nodded once. Something shifted upon the breeze, like a sigh of collective release. The moment might have shattered or sealed them. It sealed. Daenerys still held the charter. She unfurled it again. Clause 1. The Iron Throne is dissolved. Her voice carried to every parapet. Clause 2. Governance shall rest in 2 councils. The Great Council of High Lords and Ladies convenes twice a year to craft law. The Small Council, chosen by merit or by common vote, enacts those laws daily. Clause 3. No dragon shall fly above a kingdom save by joint decree. Clause 4. Any house may petition to leave the charter if a majority of houses agree and the commons consent. She paused, letting each word root. Gasps turned thoughtful. Tyrion's eyes glittered. Clause 5, Daenerys continued, voice soft but fierce, states that when one ruler dies, the other shall name a successor, never their own blood alone, lest dragons become tyrants again. All ears shifted to Jon. He climbed to her side. I will sign, he said. He produced a small vial of maester's ink and dipped a quill Davos offered. But first I speak clearly. Though my blood holds Targaryen flame, I forsake any sole claim to crown. He signed. Jon Sand, then paused, crossed out the last name and wrote, Targaryen Stark. A new name, a binding of houses. The parchment passed from hand to hand. Tyrion, Gendry, Piper, Mooten Dada. Each a fixed seal or scrawl. When the quill reached Grey Worm, he eyed it, then returned it without marking. He carried no house name. Daenerys respected the gesture. Later, as afternoon lengthened and builders resumed their toil, Jon and Daenerys walked the scorched courtyard alone. Rhaegal lounged on warm rubble. Drogon dozed with chin on folded claws. A gull screamed overhead. Jon broke silence first. You turned flame aside today. I felt it burn here. She tapped her sternum. But your voice doused it. My voice is hoarse, he said. May need yours next time. She smiled, weary. Then we will trade. They spoke then of practicalities. Rosters to feed, sewer lines to mend, aqueducts cracked by heat. Davos joined with ship manifests. Arya reported pockets of Lannister loyalists. The sun slanted west by the time the first council concluded. No bells tolled, yet invisible chimes of fragile hope rang. Night shrouded the city. From the ruins of Baelor's Sept, flickering campfires painted broken pillars gold. Here gathered the small folks' makeshift assembly. Fishmongers, bakers, smiths, stable hands, energy buzzing like a hive. At center, tall wooden crates served as rostrum. A bald cobbler hammered them into shape. He called himself Master Mender. None knew his birth name and everyone accepted the moniker. We've watched lords carve thrones from our backs, Mender proclaimed. Now they melt those thrones and speak of charters. But charters fade when ink smears. We must keep our own account. He proposed a list of grievances to deliver at the small council's first meeting. Calls for bread price caps, for waste canals to be dredged, for orphan children to receive dragon fund stipends. A cloaked figure stepped forward. Arya, though few recognized the wolf hiding in lambskin. She asked 3 simple questions. Who leads this assembly? Who defends it? Who records its words? Silence followed. Arya suggested committees, rotation of roles weekly so no one seized full sway. Mender nodded vigorously. Near midnight, Jon arrived alone, hood up. He listened unseen as a washerwoman described neighborhoods where burnt beams still collapsed on children's heads. Jon's stomach curdled. He slipped away before anyone noticed, heaviness stitching to his ribs. He found Daenerys atop the skeletal tower once called Maegor's Holdfast. She stood alone beneath a canopy of stars. City lights flickering like votive candles below. She sensed him and spoke without turning. "They gather at the Sept." "I saw," he answered. "They speak truth we haven't heard." She exhaled. "I thought freeing chains enough, but I burned chains and wrists alike." Jon stepped beside her, gaze sweeping rooftops. "We can mend wrists." "Chains are gone." A long pause. "Will they ever forgive?" she asked. "Perhaps not," he said honestly. "But they may accept. Forgiveness follows acceptance sometimes." She considered. "I've flown halfway across the world seeking love of subjects. Oddly, I covet their doubt now more than empty cheers." Jon smiled faintly. "Doubt keeps rulers awake." They lapsed into silence until Daenerys spoke again. "Grey Worm will never trust charters. His loyalty is to me alone. If I falter, he may stand between us and peace." "Now?" Jon nodded. "Then we must show him peace is strength, not compromise. Words may fail. Actions then." Jon leaned on the parapet. "Tomorrow we ride through Flea Bottom on foot. No guard but Grey Worm. We speak with the poorest." Daenerys' eyes widened. "They might kill us. Or they might see us bleed the same color." She bit her lip, then nodded. "Dawn then." They descended the ruin together, neither quite touching, yet bound by unspoken pact. Morning's first light revealed banners sprouting across rooftops, hastily sewn cloth of indigo and pale gold, bearing a symbol new yet familiar. Twin dragons bent in circle, tails knotted, wings framing a dire wolf howling upward. Jon blinked in wonder as he and Daenerys emerged, cloaks plain, no crowns. Rhaegal and Drogon slumbered beyond the city walls. Grey Worm flanked them with 20 unsullied only. They descended into Flea Bottom's labyrinth. At first, people shrank from them in doorways, wary of unsullied pikes. Jon instructed Grey Worm to order spears shouldered. Slowly the atmosphere eased. Children trailed behind, whispering. Daenerys knelt to greet a girl missing 3 fingers, victim of collapsing roof. She asked her name. The girl whispered, "Rose." Daenerys removed a silver ring from her finger, thin, dragon-etched, and placed it in Rose's palm. "This will buy timber for a new roof," she promised. Rose's mother wept silent, thanks. Grey Worm watched, jaw tight, something shifting behind his war-scarred eyes. Further on, Jon found the same old woman from yesterday scraping moss from a busted fountain. He offered to turn the rusted crank lifting water bucket. She eyed him, then cackled when water sputtered free. "King Waterboy," she crowed. Murmurs turned to tentative laughter. In a smoke-choked alley, a butcher pleaded for coin to replace blades melted by wildfire heat. Daenerys listened, then beckoned Jon. They followed the butcher to his singed shop, where carcasses spoiled. Jon grimaced. She turned to Grey Worm. "Fetch the quartermaster. Allocate coin from royal coffers." Grey Worm bowed. Something rare glimmered in his gaze. Respect. By midday, the escort had grown to 50 small folk, trailing in chaotic parade. They passed a tavern where a minstrel recognized Jon's face and struck up an impromptu ballad. "Wolf and dragon, fire and snow, mend the realm from ember glow." The tune was crude, yet hearts beat in time. On the Mosquito steps, they encountered a barricade of toppled carts, manned by Lannister diehards, bearing crossbows. Grey Worm's hand flew to spear. Daenerys raised her own hand. "Let us pass," she called. "We come unarmed." An officer. Oric Lannister, orange beard matted. "No Dragon Queen strides these streets again. We have children yet unburied." He aimed a quarrel. Jon stepped forward into clear shot. Gasps behind him. "My life for her passage," he declared. "Kill if you must." Shock rippled across the barricade. Sir Oric's finger quivered on trigger. But a boy, perhaps his cousin, grasped his elbow, whispered. Oric's shoulders sagged. He lowered the crossbow, voice hoarse. "Peace. If peace means we bury our dead in daylight unmarred by flame, we will help dig graves," Jon vowed. The barricade parted. They spent afternoon in the ruined sept of Baelor, now makeshift morgue, helping priests and silent sisters prepare bodies. Daenerys washed charred faces. Jon arranged candles. Grey Worm carried stretchers without complaint. Sweat, ash, tears mingled. Human labor forging brittle alloy of forgiveness. Word of their deed flew as swift as ravens. By evening, Lord Mallister arrived at the Septi with casks of Harrenhal's finest wine and bread wagon escorts. He kneeled to Daenerys, voice thick. "Your decree reached my ears," he said. "If you will kneel among corpses none would claim, I will stand among your living." Daenerys lifted him gently. "Stand for them," she said, gesturing to rows of cloth-shrouded remains. Mallister's cheeks glistened. That night, the Great Council convened in the shell of the throne room. Torchlight licking cracked walls. Lords and ladies packed onto benches of hastily hewn pine. Common delegates, bakers, cobblers, washerwomen, claimed equal benches opposite. Between them stretched a long stone table, saved from Maegor's kitchens. At its head sat Daenerys and Jon side by side, no thrones behind, only bare marble horizon. Tyrion rapped a gavel. "By Charter Clause 7 we hear proposals." A ripple of excitement. Never had small folk spoken in same breath as Lord D. Master Mender rose, clutching parchment, smudged by alley lamp. "We propose a levy on each noble cargo ship to fund rebuilding roofs in Flea Bottom." He cleared throat. "Second, we propose dragon dung. Pardon be collected for fertilizer to seed new vegetable plots in the burned quarter." A few noble noses wrinkled. Jon stifled a grin. Tyrion asked, "Who seconds these proposals?" Hands, calloused, ringed, manicured, rose across divisions. "So recorded." Lady Bar Emmon suggested converting one Scorpion workshop into a smith's school. Lord Mooton objected over lost defense. Daenerys mediated. Half the Scorpions decommissioned, half maintained under charters requiring joint approval for use. Consensus reached after heated but civil debate. Hours passed. Sparks flew, but never flame. When the final gavel fell, Jon leaned back exhausted. He glanced at Daenerys, who wore a look of brittle wonder, as if she had glimpsed a realm she scarcely dared imagine. Tyrion dismissed the council shortly before moonset. People filed out murmuring. Some shook hands across centuries of suspicion. The chamber emptied until only Jon, Daenerys, Tyrion, and Grey Worm remained. Tyrion exhaled. A day without executions. A record for most of us. Grey Worm's jaw tensed. He bowed to Daenerys. "The city edges remain volatile. I request additional unsullied patrols." "And so," Daenerys considered, "we must tread lightly. Dragon Pit tomorrow will house market stalls. Keep spears sheathed unless attacked." Grey Worm's brow creased. "Unsullied obey." He withdrew, leaving the three. Tyrion turned to Daenerys. "That letter from Korth arrived. The warlocks claim a fragment of your chain still sings beneath the blackened dome. They beg your presence." Daenerys snorted softly. "Warlocks beg chains." She waved a hand. "Another time." Tyrion departed to draft council minutes, leaving Jon and Daenerys alone. The echoing vastness of the ruined hall enveloped them like memory. Moonlight cascaded through gaps in ceiling, silvering rubble. Daenerys strode to a mound of melted swords once fused as throne base. She brushed fingers across jagged metal. So many lives folded in steel. "Too many," Jon murmured, joining her. She gazed at him. Shadows and moonlight made her face half celestial, half mortal. "I feared love robbed me of strength," she confessed. "But today I saw love strengthen you. When you stepped before that crossbow, I felt awe. Jon looked away, cheeks flushing despite soot. I only did what felt right. You placed your life between mine and death. Her voice trembled. That is more than any crown could ask. He met her eyes. And you spared that boy when every instinct cried for flame. That is more than any throne could teach. Silence flowered, fragrant with possibility. She reached up, caressed soot on his cheek, traced the line of old scar near his ear. He closed his eyes, leaning into the touch. Faint footfalls tugged them back. Arya stepped from the shadows, face unreadable. Ravens from Winterfell, she said, handing Jon a scroll. It's Bran. She hesitated, eyes flicking to Daenerys. He says the past stirs. Jon unfurled scroll. Ink black letters in Bran's precise hand. The wall between worlds thins. White shadows linger beyond Frostfangs. Not walkers, but echoes. Dragons and direwolves may yet need stand side by side once more. He folded parchment, heartbeat quickening. Trouble north, he muttered. Daenerys read tension in his shoulders. If ghosts rise, we will answer, she said. Jon nodded. But within him, the weight of new dawn pressed. They had barely birthed peace. Now some distant shadow whispered. Arya sensed mood shift. We ride before week's end. She slipped away. Daenerys moved to tall window, peering north. Always another battle. Always. Jon agreed, stepping beside her. But we face it together. He placed an arm lightly around her shoulders. She leaned, not quite against him, but near. Below, the city slept. Fitfully, cautiously, but free of flame this night. Above, dragons lay curled against cooling stone, green wing over black. Two hearts pulsed in time, dreaming uneasy dreams of skies unscarred. Far beneath the Red Keep's rubble, in tunnels older than memory, flickering torchlight revealed a half-collapsed vault. Grey Worm descended alone. Silent footsteps wary. He carried a small chest carved from ebony, its lid inlaid with Valyrian glyphs. He approached a figure, cloaked in tattered maester's robes. A man whose face remained shrouded, eyes gleaming reptilian gold in fireglow. They begin councils, Grey Worm said, voice raw. Way. Balance built on breath. Breath may fail. The cloaked man's smile glimmered like a razor. Then we shall provide the spark. Grey Worm opened the chest. Inside lay 3 oblong vials containing swirling green liquid. Wildfire, but tinged with shadow. The robed man's chuckle echoed cavern walls. Dragonfire turned inward, he whispered. Let us see if peace can survive its own reflection. Grey Worm's face betrayed no emotion. He closed the lid and lifted the chest. For the Unsullied's fallen, he murmured. For justice, the robed man corrected. Grey Worm said nothing. Torchlight sputtered as they vanished deeper into the labyrinth. Above, Jon and Daenerys surveyed a city mending. Below, embers awaited breath. Storm clouds gathered over Blackwater Bay 2 mornings later. Davos cursed weather but loaded grain barges nonetheless. The sea smelled of new life stirred by rain. Gulls swooped low, snatching crusts from wharf hands' pockets. On the hill, workers raised scaffold around the melted sword mound, soon to be shaped into a memorial archway. Dothraki riders, newly instructed in stable management, trotted horses laden with limestone blocks from quarries north of Rosby. Northmen chopped charred beams into kindling for bakeries. The city hummed like a wound knitting. Yet in the gloom of coming storm, tension brewed. Lord Tarley, recently pardoned for past treasons in exchange for stewardship of the Reach's harvest, arrived with wagons of grain, but an entourage of stern septons who muttered about dragons and unnatural queens. Tyrion observed them warily. He knew zeal when he smelled it. That afternoon, Bran's second raven arrived, feathers ravaged by gale. It landed upon Jon's wrist in the dragon pit. Eyes milk white. Jon removed the scroll, brow furrowing as he read. Unseen fires burning beyond the gift. Seek truth beneath the crypt shadows. Old kings stir when new peace rises. Beware green that glows. Jon shared the note with Daenerys and Tyrion in a hasty gathering. Tyrion frowned. Green that glows? Wildfire? Or something older? Jon murmured. Daenerys glanced at Jon. The crypt shadows. Winterfell. Jon nodded. A chill finger traced his spine. He recalled whispers of ghosts in stark tombs, of kings whose bones guarded secrets. They barely had time to ponder before a runner dashed in. An avalanche of panic. Explosion in the western dock district, emerald flames leaping sky-high. Jon and Daenerys rushed to parapet. From vantage they saw a pillar of eerily green fire spiraling into black sky. Wildfire unleashed. But as they watched, the flames writhed unnaturally, bending inward, siphoning themselves into a glowing sphere above the docks before vanishing with a vacuum roar that sucked gulls from flight. Silence followed, too swift, too complete. Davos arrived breathless. No structures lost, but 40 dockhands gone. Flame consumed itself. Tyrion's face blanched. That was no ordinary wildfire. Daenerys' eyes hardened. Find who lit it. Grey Worm stepped forward from shadow. Face unreadable. We hunt. Jon studied him. Something new in the set of his shoulders. He felt unease coil. Night fell early under thunderclouds. Patrols combed alleys. Queen's Guard interrogated tavern owners. Arya slipped into the undercroft where Grey Worm stored prisoners. She found cells empty, shackles cold. Grey Worm, it seemed, hunted but captured none. Arya reported to Jon. He confronted Grey Worm atop the gatehouse as rain began to lash. What did you find? Grey Worm's gaze raked the dark streets. Nothing. Nothing leaves scorch marks like that. Jon pressed. Grey Worm met his stare, unblinking. Unsullied, protect the queen. No more questions. Jon inhaled. If you withhold truth, you endanger her. Grey Worm's jaw flexed. Loyalty is truth. Before Jon could argue, horns blared from the waterfront. A fleet sailed up Blackwater, ships flying sunburst sigil of Dorne. At their head, Princess Arianne Martell, banners of gold on orange snapping in gale. Arianne had been in exile, rumored to court both Lannister and reach alliances. Now she arrived unannounced. Jon and Daenerys greeted her under storm-slick lanterns. Arianne disembarked clad in scaled armor of copper rose, curls dripping rain. She bowed low to Daenerys, eyes scorching with curiosity. Dorne honors charters, she said, but demands seeing dragons who sign it. Daenerys gestured skyward. Rhaegal soared through cloud breaks, Drogon behind. Lightning forked, illuminating them like living constellations. Arianne's grin spread. I bring sandsteels skilled in siege and song, she declared. Shall we carve peace in stone or ballad? Daenerys extended hand. Arianne clasped it. In stone first, then song, the queen said. Thus a new ally joined, yet beneath celebration Jon felt the tremor of impending storm. Bran's warnings, wildfire's unnatural hush, Grey Worm's secret weight. 3 days later, the Great Council reconvened to codify the grain levy. Arguments rose. Smallfolk delegates demanding wider bread distribution, Lord Tarly pushing quotas. Debate verged on chaos when Rhaegal shrieked overhead. Distress, not display. Jon bolted for the courtyard, Daenerys on his heels. They found Rhaegal thrashing, tail carving grooves in marble. Black veins, spiderweb beneath emerald scales like creeping shadow. Drogon prowled around him, roaring confused. Maesters rushed with salves. The dragon flinched, vomited a gout of translucent flame that hissed to nothing upon contact with air, green-tinged vapor. Jon reached his dragon's cheek. Heat pulsed, but scale felt feverishly cool. Poison? He asked Maester Velarar. Unknown, the Maester whispered. No wound. Daenerys gripped Jon's arm. Who would dare? Grey Worm appeared behind, silent as apparition. We secure perimeter. Jon wheeled. No one leaves until we discover the source. Dothraki outriders scoured feed stores. They found nothing. Davos stumbled upon a shattered vial near the granary, thin glass laced with warped glass veins. Maester Valar analyzed residue. Wildfire laced with powdered obsidian. Such mixture, applied to dragon's feed trough, might sicken rather than ignite. Daenerys' eyes blazed. Assassin hides among us. Jon cradled Rhaegal's great head, whispering. The dragon's pupils swam unfocused. He smelled ozone, saw flecks of frost forming along nostrils, though heat radiated. Night fell. Rhaegal's breathing slowed, but the black veins ceased expanding. Stalemate. Jon kept vigil. Daenerys convened small council in the courtyard by torchlight. Tyrion presented evidence. Wildfire caches missing from Alchemist's Guild vault. The guild denied involvement. Arya suggested inside help. All eyes slid to Grey Worm, gatekeeper of Queen's security, captain of New City Guard. Grey Worm stiffened. Unsullied, not traitors. Yet wildfire vanished under your watch, Tyrion noted. Grey Worm's hand inched toward dagger. Daenerys raised a palm. No accusations until proof. Tyrion inclined head, but uncertainty coiled around them. At dawn, Rhaegal stirred, eyes clearer. Jon slumped in relief. Maester Valar announced toxins ebbing. But the threat stood stark. Someone wielded dragon-killing alchemy. Bran's warnings returned to Jon. Green that glows, unseen fires. He saw Daenerys on the tower parapet, overlooking dawn-pink seas. Seas mirrored blood and hope. He told her of Bran's note, his fear that the crypt shadows might hold key to unnatural wildfire. Daenerys listened, expression grave. Then you must ride north, she said. Jon balked. Leave now, when assassins prowl? You must, she insisted. If the realm faces threat older than us, we stop it before cities burn again. She placed hand on his chest. I will guard peace here. You trust me? He clasped her hand. With my life. But hesitation flickered. Grey Worm, wildfire. He swallowed. I leave Davos, Arya, and 200 Northmen with you. She smiled ruefully. If I have dragons, I can spare Northmen. But thank you. They embraced. Awkward at first. Then fervent. Rain began to fall. Gentle, washing soot from their hair. Before noon, Jon prepared for journey. Rhaegal, though weakened, insisted by nudge of snout to fly. Jon relented. Maester Valar dosed him with cooling draught, scented of mint and wolfsbane. At the dragon pit, Jon hugged Tyrion, clasped Davos, whispered with Arya. To Grey Worm he offered forearm, warrior clasp. Grey Worm accepted, grip hard, unsmiling. Jon searched Captain's eyes. Saw iron, sorrow, something hidden. Jon mounted Rhaegal. Daenerys stood below. Drogon crouched behind, wings half open like prayer. She raised a hand. Jon touched heart, then pointed skyward. Rhaegal leaped, powerful though shaky. Jon felt muscles strain, but flight steadied. They banked north, leaving city receding like dream. Daenerys watched until green speck vanished beyond clouds. She turned to Drogon. Stormwind buffeted braids. Guard him, she whispered, though dragon could not hear. Then she descended into the city, where councils awaited. Banners fluttered, and somewhere deep below, an ebony chest pulsed with secret fire. Jon's journey north unfolded beneath ominous skies. Rhaegal's recovery proved slow yet steadfast, each rest they shared by cliffside fires. Dragon curling around protective as a living wall. They crossed Trident's broad waters where ravens wheeled overhead, as if guided by Bran's will. Jon dreamt of Winterfell's godswood whispering of kings who walked after death. 3 nights out they landed at the ruins of Last Hearth. Northmen rebuilt there, but walls still bore scorch marks from dead years. Jon asked for tales of ghosts. The new Castellan spoke of lights flickering in barrowfields, cold wind singing in broken antlers above hearth altars. Jon left uneasy but pressed on. When Winterfell's towers rose from snow-shrouded hills, Rhaegal trumpeted, echoing off stone. Stable boys gaped, remembering earlier dragon roost, but awed nonetheless. Sansa met him in the yard, cloak white as fresh fallen drift. They embraced. She eyed Rhaegal's pale scales, brow creased with concern, but greeted the dragon with whispered thanks for safe passage. Inside the halls, Bran awaited before warm blaze. He nodded. "The green fire wakes," he intoned. Jon sat opposite. "What is it?" "Not wildfire alone," Bran murmured. "Something older. Forged when Valyria first cracked. Alchemists discovered sliver shards of shadow glass, smelted with spellfire from dragon hearts. They called it verdant echo. Burns not wood but souls." "Menabral." Jon's skin chilled. "Who wields it?" Bran's gaze unfocused, storm swirling in pale irises. "A brother of no house, bound by whip and freed by dragons. Loyal to pain. The echo answers his grief. Grey worm, died he." Jon's stomach sank. He rose, pacing. He would never harm Daenerys. Would he harm her peace to avenge her enemies? Bran countered. Jon stopped. "He believes fear strengthens rule." "Echo feeds fear," Bran said. "And a cloaked maester of forgotten order fans embers." Jon pressed palms to temples. "We must warn her. Raven would be seized," Bran said. "Only dragon can outrace the echo." Jon nodded grimly. "We fly at dawn." But Bran lifted a hand. First, the crypts. They descended spiral stairs, into chill gloom. Lantern light spilled across ancient stone effigies, kings of winter, queens of ice. Near the far wall, rubble from battle with dead had been mostly cleared, but Bran wheeled to a niche newly revealed. A rough-hewn door stood open. Beyond, a narrow passage sloped into earth where frost crystals glittered like stars. Jon followed. The corridor opened to a cavern. In its center rose a smooth column of black rock, veined with faintly glowing green. Carvings circled it, direwolf chasing dragon. Atop the column rested a dagger forged of obsidian and tempered iron, blades swirling with flecks of frozen emerald light. Jon reached but halted. "What is it?" Bran's chair glided forward as if wind pushed. "The Mirror Fang," he whispered. "Forged in dawn of age when children and first men bound magic with sorrow. It can sever ghost fire from flesh, still flames that feed on grief." Jon stared. "Valyrian. Older," Bran said. "Only a blood of both wolf and dragon may wield without ruin." Jon hesitated. "If I take it, what price?" "Only choice," Bran replied. "Tool may save dragons, or slay them." Jon swallowed. He reached, grasped hilt. The dagger felt cold, yet thrummed with heartbeat. His own, or something vaster. He sheathed it in leather sling across back. Above, dawn's gray light seeped into crypt stair. Jon turned to Bran. "Send ravens to Sansa. Hold Winterfell secure." Bran nodded. "May snowy wings guide green fire to rest." Jon ascended, war pounding in ears. As Jon prepared to fly south again, in King's Landing storm clouds boiled with unnatural green glimmer. Daenerys, standing upon the half-built memorial arch, felt a chill. Drogon lifted head, nostrils flaring. A distant rumble rolled. Thunder or something darker. Tyrion joined her. Alchemists report more vials missing. Daenerys clenched jaw, eyed. "Where is Grey Worm?" "Gone since dawn," Tyrion admitted, worry furrowing brow. "Guard says he rode east, beyond city walls." Rain began, fat drops hissing upon warm stone. Yet the drops that struck Daenerys' palm shimmered faintly green before evaporating. Her eyes widened. "Verdant echo," she breathed. An explosion cracked through thunder, this time near Dragon Pit. A plume of silent flames spiraled, then collapsed inward like the dock's explosion. Dragons roared, unsettled. Daenerys turned. "Ready, Drogon," she ordered Tyrion. "Lead the council to the crypt passages under Visenya's hill, safe from unnatural fire." Tyrion objected. "I stay and advise," but she fixed him with stern glare. He acquiesced, limping quickly toward keep. Drogon crouched, wings unfurling, but Daenerys hesitated. Rhaegal still convalesced. Without Jon had refused flight. She mounted Drogon alone and launched, heart hammering. Green mist drifted across sky, shaping serpent shapes before dispersal. On the eastern plain she found unsullied battalions arrayed before yawning sinkhole, belching luminous vapor. But Grey Worm stood at front, chest bare, ebony chest open beside him, vials glowing within. Opposite him knelt the cloaked maester, chanting in tongue of Valyria lost. Drogon landed with quake. Daenerys approached, cloak whipping. "Grey Worm," she cried above storm. "Stop." He turned, features carved from stone but eyes shimmering tears. "They must remember fear," he said. "Else, they will chain dragons again." "They chose peace," she insisted. "Peace built on crowns of ash soon forgets," he whispered. He lifted a vial. Verdant echo burns memory into bone. Daenerys stepped closer. Rapid footsteps behind. Arya, Davos, Gendry arrived, blades drawn. Unsullied lowered spears. Grey Worm's hand trembled. "I too feel pain," he said, voice breaking. "Nath children still cry in my sleep. Dragons freed me, but chains of memory weigh." Tears slid down cheeks. "I trust only flame to guard those children." Daenerys' own tears welled. Flame cannot guard, only scorch. She extended hand. "Lay down the vial. Stand with me in light, not green shadow." For a heartbeat, the storm paused. Then the cloaked maester hissed incantation and lunged to seize chest. Arya's blade flashed. Davos hurled dagger, but too slow. Maester caught chest, flung 2 vials into sinkhole. Green fire surged upward in pillar. Unsullied screamed. Grey Worm staggered, torn between queen and grief. Then a roar cleaved heavens. Rhaegal, wings beating despite illness. Jon astride. They dove, Mirrorfang gleaming in Jon's hand like shard of frozen dawn. He steered Rhaegal into the pillar. The dragon's throat convulsed, exhaling broad cone of white-blue flame, cold as star ice, conjured by poisoned fever. The white fire met green. Colors collided, seethed, stuttered. Jon hurled Mirrorfang. The dagger struck the heart of swirling pillar. Emerald fissures raced along blade, then snapped, imploding the vortex. A shockwave knocked soldiers and dragons to knees, but no heat followed, only wind. The cloaked maester screeched a curse, lunged for final vial. Grey Worm, tears streaming, intercepted with spear, driving steel through the man's chest. The vial clattered and rolled to Daenerys, who knelt, lifting it with trembling hands. Silence reigned beneath thunder. Jon dismounted, staggering. Daenerys met him in rain. Mirrorfang lay at his feet, blade now clear crystal. She looked to Grey Worm. He dropped to knees, head bowed. "I sought to save," he murmured. "I nearly destroyed." Daenerys approached, knelt before him. "Pain forged you, brother. But pain cannot drive us now." She took his hand. Grey Worm sobbed, broken for first time since Astapor. Unsullied lowered spears, many weeping at sight of their general undone. Arya retrieved the ebony chest, now empty save splintered glass. She offered it to Jon. He shook his head. Drogon growled softly. World returned to breath. Jon retrieved Mirrorfang, sheathed it. "We must seal the sinkhole," Davos advised. Gendry's smiths would forge iron plates by nightfall. Daenerys stood, hair plastered by rain, face streaked with soot and tears. She addressed assembled soldiers. "Let this be last time echo answers grief. Let memory heal, not burn." She lifted shard of shattered vial, tossed it into mud. "The past guides, but never governs." Cheering broke, tentative at first, then swelling. Grey Worm rose. "Unsullied protect peace," he vowed. Voice hoarse. Jon clasped his forearm. Together. Lightning flickered, but storm began to drift, green hue fading. That night, they convened emergency council. Tyrion documented new clause forbidding experimentation with wildfire or shadow glass, without unanimous council approval and maester oversight. Lord Tarley objected. Reach produced neither. Why surrender advantage? But after seeing verdant Echo's ruin, he relented. Grey Worm surrendered command of City Watch to a mixed guard chosen from Northmen, Dornish, and Unsullied units, agreeing to serve as equal captain rather than sole commander. Daenerys reaffirmed Charter's clause on accountability. No one above scrutiny, not even Queen. When meetings concluded, Daenerys and Jon walked ramparts. Moonlight silvered mirror pools where rain had gathered. Rhaegal slumbered peacefully, wounds healing. Drogon kept watch, unblinking. Daenerys turned to Jon. We nearly lost everything. But we found more, he said. She nodded, tears gentle. I once believed only fire made me strong. Today I learned strength lies between fire and ice, between us. Jon brushed damp strands from her cheek. Together then. For as long as sky holds dragons. She smiled, leaning into him. Their lips met. Soft. Fearless. Free of throne or prophecy. Above them, clouds parted. Starlight spilled, untainted green. Beyond city walls, fields sprouted new shoots nurtured by rain and ash. The realm whispered, battered yet breathing. And in caverns beneath Winterfell, Mirrorfang pulsed with calm light, waiting, should ghosts rise again. Inda. Ng. Bani. A hush drifted over the campfires outside Winterfell as frost-blue dusk folded itself across the sky. Jon paced the snowy yard while ravens muttered on the broken parapets, as if debating which omen deserved the night. Inside the great hall, Sansa brokered an urgent conclave of lords and free folk, hammering grain levies into fairer shape. Torches hissed against drafts that smelled of pine and ash. Rhaegal, still mending from poison's claws, curled beneath the western wall where hot iron braziers kept the biting wind at bay. The dragon's breath steamed like forge smoke, a lullaby of distant thunder. Grey Worm stood at the gatehouse plank walk not 20 paces from Jon. Snowflakes gathered in the captain's close-cropped hair, melting into rivulets that streaked his cheeks. Neither had spoken since the flight north, yet the pause between them felt neither hostile nor easy, rather like two swords driven into the same earth, edges cooling after battle. Jon halted at last. I owe you an apology, Grey Worm said, surprising Jon. His Valyrian accent cracked more than usual, as though shame had thawed something long frozen. I let pain speak for justice. Pain speaks lies. Jon considered. Pain speaks truths twisted out of shape, he answered. But you stopped before the worst. He motioned toward Mirrorfang, sheathed across his back. Had you not turned, this fang might have tasted dragon heart. Grey Worm's gaze lingered on the hilt. Someday perhaps I will deserve forgiveness. Today, I will settle for purpose. He squared his shoulders and nodded toward the black pines beyond the palisade. The wild north awaits your command. Unsullied obey. Jon half smiled, thin as new ice. Tonight we rest. Tomorrow we ride. He extended an arm in the old knight's watch clasp. Grey Worm accepted, the two warriors binding grief to resolve. Long before sunrise, Bran summoned Jon, Sansa, and Arya to the Godswood. A hush deeper than silence reigned beneath the weirwood's sighing branches. Snow sifted down like pale ash, dusting Bran's cloak. When Jon arrived, Bran lifted one hand, gesturing toward 3 rough bundles lying at the trunk space. Ravens perched above issued a single unified caw, then fell still. These came in dreams, Bran murmured. He flicked his fingers and the bundles unfurled. Slender spears of heart-tree wood tipped with dragon glass blades swirled by filaments of clear crystal, the same living luminescence that pulsed through Mirrorfang's core. From the children, Arya whispered, running her thumb along one crystalline edge. From a memory older than the children, Bran replied. Ashes of starfall delivered by roots of winter. Weapons to sever Echo's tether if we meet it again. Jon hefted one spear. The wood felt warm, almost breathing. Then we bring them north. Sansa stepped close to her brother, eyes bright beneath lamp-like lanterns. If you journey beyond the wall again, take more than steel and scales. Take Winterfell's word. Any free folk who bend to peace may settle south of the Gift. Grain stores will hold through next winter. Jon placed a gloved hand over hers. The free folk saved us all at the long night's edge. They deserve hearths, not frost. Bah. Bran's white gaze drifted skyward. Yet Frost remembers. Ride swift, wolves and dragons. Memory is stirring. They set out at first light. Jon, Grey Worm, Arya, Tormund Giantsbane, drawn from a free folk envoy, and a cadre of knights watch voluntaries led by Sir Jeremy Ricker. Rhaegal flew overhead, wings still stiff, but beating steady. Snow blew sideways in feathery veils, erasing their tracks almost faster than they could leave them. The wall loomed by mid-afternoon, no longer an unbroken rampart, but repaired in sections with quarried ice and buttressed timber. Builders hailed their passing. Jon spared a nod but kept pace, urgency driving him beyond. Eastwatch's gates parted to reveal a sea clutching shards of gray ice like shattered mirror glass. The column pressed into the Frostfang foothills where wind cut, shrieked, and stank of secrets. Nights they huddled around small blue-white flames coaxed from barrels of oily resin, salvaged from Korth's spice ships. Fire that gave little light but less smoke, lest watchful eyes betray them. On the fourth dawn, specters appeared. Not the hard-clattering battalions of the dead Jon once knew, but drifting silhouettes of armor dressed in flickering verdant fire. They hovered above a frozen tarn, unmoving, as though tethered by an unseen puppet sting. The company held fast. Arya squinted. "They don't breathe," she murmured. Jon dismounted. He unsheathed Mirror Fang. A solitary tone thrummed along its length, clear as struck glass, yet so quiet only Rhaegal seemed truly to hear. He answered with a low trill. The green shades rippled, coalesced toward the blade's faint glow. Jon drew a breath, stepped onto the ice. One shade broke from the cluster, gliding forward. Beneath the rippling veil of ghost fire, Jon glimpsed a shattered helm and the face of a boy. White as chalk, eyes hollow. Something inside those voids yearned. Jon felt it like a tug behind his ribs, a child seeking home. In a swift motion learned from 10,000 still nights, he reversed Mirror Fang and drove the point into the frozen tarn at the boy shade's feet. The lake exploded in light. White cracks spidered beneath the surface. Green flame guttered, sucked downward as if the spear drew venom from a wound. The shade convulsed, then collapsed into the hole like smoke sucked into bellows. One by one the others wavered, panic whispered through their formless ranks, then imploded, yanked into watery grave. Steam hissed upward. The ice refroze in seconds, smooth as moonlit marble. Jon staggered back. Grey Worm caught his arm steady. Rhaegal roared overhead, triumphant. Tormund stared wide-eyed. "Snow, you've grown strange as old Nan's stories." "Strange enough," Jon answered, wiping frost from his beard. "But the breach is closed only here. Echo binds deeper." He knelt, withdrew Mirror Fang. Its blade glimmered brighter now, as though each captured echo sharpened its edge. Beyond the tarn, they discovered an ascent hidden beneath overhangs, steps chipped into black stone older than first men. At the path's top lay a cavern mouth, exhaling faintly green mist. Rhaegal tried to enter but halted, wings shuddering. The stone ceiling pressed low. Jon stroked the dragon's snout. "Guard the sky," he whispered. He led the strike team inside. The corridor sloped downward in gentle spiral, walls of midnight glass veined with verdant tinsel. At intervals, carvings depicted dragons coiling around sapling forests. Beneath each carving sprawled lines of old Valyrian script twined with glyphs of the children. Two languages bound like mismatched lovers. Arya paused at one panel. "Here," she murmured, running fingers across chilled stone. "It tells of forging flame to cage time." Tormund grunted. "Words. Let's find what needs stabbing." The passage terminated at an immense chamber, the throat of some long-dead volcano. Obsidian pillars ringed its cavernous expanse, each etched by the same twin scripts. But dominating all was the forge. A caldera pool of bubbling green glass molten flux. flames flickering above like petals of an ethereal lotus. Suspended over the pool, by chains of frozen starlight, dangled a colossal heart-shaped crystal, pulsing, throbbing in time with a heartbeat that was not any man's, yet shook marrow. At the anvil beside the pool stood a lone figure, a frail man robed in layered bandages, face leathery and drawn taut across cheekbones. His eyes glowed pale emerald. He turned slowly, gaze falling upon Mirror Fang with predatory devotion. "Thought the maester died," Arya whispered. Jon stepped forward. "Who are you?" The figure's lips peeled into cracked smile. "I am Echo Keeper, last of the Shard Weavers," he rasped. His voice broke like glass ground beneath heel. "Born in Valyria's final breath, tasked to harvest grief enough to forge eternity." Tormund spat. "Forging eternity got Valyria drowned." "Not drowned," Echo Keeper corrected. "Reborn. Verdant Echo is Valyria's second roar." Grey Worm slid spear from back, crimson cloak brushing cavern dust. "You poison dragons. You burn innocents without flame's mercy. Innocents are seed," the Keeper hissed. He lifted one bony hand. The green heart overhead brightened, casting monstrous shadows. "When heart opens, every sorrow, every memory of pain will crystallize. Realm will remember fear for 10,000 years." Jon raised Mirrorfang. "Loose the chain. Let heart fall and shatter." "Many." Echo Keeper laughed, a sound brittle as icicles clinking in wind. "Break it, and grief floods world unshaped. Keep it alive, becomes crown for Dragon Queen. Choice is yours, half-blood wolf." Jon's gut twisted. He felt Rhaegal's distant tremor, dragon's fear, answering heart's pulse. Arya hissed under breath. "There's always a third path." She vaulted left, vanished behind basalt pillar. At the same moment, Grey Worm launched forward. Spear thrust aimed at the Keeper's throat. Chain lightning arced from the heart, deflecting the weapon in shower of sparks. The Keeper flung his palm wide. Molten glass surged from the caldera, shaping into whips of emerald fire lashing toward Jon. Mirrorfang met the lash, each strike sizzling into frost steam. Jon pressed through. The Keeper retreated, drawing energy from the pulsing heart. Tormund roared, swinging copper-rimmed axe. "Giant's breath!" He sheared two chains. The heart lurched. Arya reappeared above, having climbed a pillar, dagger glowing blue from dragonglass edge. She leapt, burying the blade in the largest shackle. Metal shrieked. The chain burst free, fragmenting into showers of green shards. The heart sagged. One chain left. Echo Keeper screamed, channeling a conical blast of whispering green flame. It rocketed at Arya mid-fall. Jon flung himself. Mirrorfang raised like shield. Flame met crystal blade. Whiteness flashed, deafening. Jon felt weightless, then crashed onto obsidian floor, lungs burning with cold. Through ringing ears he heard Grey Worm shout, felt the reverberation of chains snapping beneath Tormund's relentless axe. Light whirled. The heart groaned, a dying dragon's roar, and plummeted into the molten pool. In that instant, Mirrorfang tore from Jon's hand, drawn by some magnet of destiny, plunging after. A vacuum howl ripped the chamber. Molten glass geysered skyward, but froze mid-air, shattering into crystalline snow that drifted harmlessly around them. Green fire blinked out. Echo ceased. The Keeper fell to knees, sockets darkening. "Grief. Unbound," he whispered, and crumbled to dust. Silence. Only drips from cooling rock remained. Arya rolled onto her back, laughing one breath of disbelief. Tormund's beard crackled with frozen shards. Grey Worm knelt beside Jon, who pushed himself upright, vision swimming. Where the pool once seethed now lay smooth obsidian floor. In its center, Mirrorfang protruded hilt-up, blade embedded, no longer glowing, silent but whole. Jon approached. As he wrapped fingers around the hilt, a tremor rippled through the hall, distant wave of energy spreading outward like thawing river. He sensed it crest over the wall, surging south toward King's Landing, then dissipating into air. He sheathed the dagger. "We ended Echo," he said, voice raw. "Memories freed or lost, I know not. But they'll no longer carve fear from grief." Grey Worm bowed head. "Unsullied, oh peace to you, and the wolf girl, and the ginger giant." Tormund bellowed a laugh. "Giants pay debts in mead and song. Bring both when the snows melt." Arya smirked. "Leave fear to ghosts." They turned for the passage upward. Behind them, the Hall of Chains lay still. New darkness scattering old curses. At Winterfell, standing watch upon rampart, Sansa felt a gust warm as spring brushed through her red hair. Snowflakes ceased mid-fall, dissolving into harmless mist. Far to the south in King's Landing, Daenerys looked skyward as dusk tint shifted from tinge of sickly jade to soft rose. Drogon's wings eased, a low croon rumbling through his chest. Even in Old Town's highest tower, archmaesters paused at their astrolabes as needles flicked strangely, then righted. A weight lifted from Westeros, unseen yet palpable. Night settled. Jon's party returned to the wall after 3 days of forced march, Rhaegal pacing overhead like a protective comet. They rode through Eastwatch and down the King's Road, reaching Winterfell to resounding cheers. Bran awaited them beneath the God's Wood once more. He raised calm eyes to Jon. "Echo sleeps," he said. "For now." Jon sank to one knee, fatigue finally catching. "Let it sleep forever." Bran's distant smile held both melancholy and hope. Nothing forever, but some rests last a lifetime. By midsummer, the realm stood on the cusp of a season untold in any maester's scrolls. King's Landing skyline, once a jagged crown of ruin, sprouted cranes and scaffolds shimmering like bones of a young dragon. The Great Council met thrice weekly. Small folk committees grew from handfuls to dozens, each bearing petitions engraved in humble charcoal. Daenerys walked among them daily, sometimes with Jon at her side when he visited from northern rounds, sometimes alone save for Drogon's doting aerial shadow. Grey Worm now commanded the Harmon Guard, a fellowship of unsullied Northmen, Stormlanders, and Dothraki blood riders sworn to shield citizens first, rulers second. His face remained stoic, but children laughed around him. He permitted their curiosity, allowed a girl named Rose to braid a small loop of blue ribbon into his cloak as payment for retrieving her lost goat. Memory still haunted him at night, but memory no longer steered him. In Highgarden, Lady Gilly Tarley, Samwell's sister, raised to Lady Regent after Lord Randall's demise, oversaw fields shimmering with wheat. Grain shipments flowed north. In exchange, Winterfell's craftsmen built windmills across the reach. Trade, once a web of silent avarice, hummed like a living tapestry. Dorne's Princess Arianne took seat on the small council as master of whispers. Eyes everywhere, fans fluttering like knives. She reported Qarth warlocks dispersed, their remaining ranks splintered by rumors of Echo's fall. Some now sought to study the Mirrorfang, which remained under stark guard in crypt vaults Bran sealed with runes. Rhaegal recovered fully, hide now marbled with faint opalescent striations, where poison's veins had once spread. Battle scars turned artwork. He flew often with Drogon along the coasts, their shapes casting patterns over fisher sails. When they banked together, their shadows formed a ring, black and green bound. Jon spent moons traveling between castles and wildling settlements, bridging trust. In the weirwood at Tormund's newborn village of New Frostruit, he swore oath with spear of hearttree wood planted beside dragonglass anvil. Never again would the Night's Watch bar travelers by birth. Its new vow read, "We guard the realms of all who breathe." Old brothers murmured approval. New sisters of spear and bow answered umber gloom with cheers. One golden evening, Jon rode south to King's Landing with a small retinue of watch stewards. At Stirrup Market he found Daenerys in simple riding cloth, sleeves rolled, helping masons raise arch over the street of steel. Her face shone with sweat and sawdust, yet her smile widened as she spied him. Drogon dozed nearby, one eye slit open. Jon dismounted, drawing her close. "Peace holds," he whispered. "For now." She replied, voice soft as first snow on thatched roof. She brushed dust from his collar. "Bran writes that comets stir near Ghost Hill." He wonders if dragons should fly to greet new omens. And Jon chuckled. Dragons will chase anything bright. Both of them. He kissed her forehead. But first, the council wants our signatures on the latest grain treaty. Daenerys groaned theatrically. Paper dragons slay the heart. Then they remind hearts to beat slower. Jon countered. They walked to the newly rebuilt council chamber, formerly a granary near the riverbank until masons finished the Red Keep's east wing. Inside, lords and tradesmen mingled. Tyrion sat at head table stacking parchments. He lifted his goblet in silent salute. Gendry waved ink-stained fingers, laughing at something Arianne whispered in his ear. Lady Sansa, fresh from tour of the Eyrie, leaned over a map with Davos, marking harbor channels for grain barges. Jon and Daenerys added their names to the treaty. Quills scraped parchment, a subtle music that felt grand. When night draped the city, lanterns along the Blackwater shimmered like captured stars. Jon and Daenerys climbed the half-finished Tower of Crown's first tier, sitting upon stone still warm from the day. Bells in the harbor chimed. Somewhere in Fleabottom a fiddler coaxed notes bright as dawn. Daenerys gazed across rooftops. I no longer dream of the Iron Throne. She said, its ashes taught me softer thrones cut less. Jon slid his hand into hers. Dream of fields and songs then. She rested her head on his shoulder. And if nightmares return, then we wake together, he replied. She closed her eyes, content. Above them, two dragons wheeled. Their cries, once harbingers of dread, now rippled across the dark like phoenix hymns. Deep, resonant, guardians of a realm reforged. In the northern night, beyond last hearth, a lone icebound hill cracked at its crown. From the fissure emerged a single shard of green-tinted glass, faintly pulsing, echoes that Mirror Fang had not wholly quenched. A raven landed, head tilting, eyes blue as deep ocean. It tapped the shard thrice, as though asking a riddle. Far away in Winterfell, Bran's eyes opened. He tilted his head, listening to winds that whispered of comets, of shards, of cycles endless. He exhaled and smiled, because stories never ended, only changed shape. And in King's Landing that same hour, Jon and Daenerys stood on their balcony, watching new constellations slide into view above the rebuilt skyline. He wrapped a cloak around her shoulders. She leaned back against him. So much to mend, she murmured. And time enough, he promised. Behind them, on a polished oaken table, fresh parchment awaited. A charter amendment proposing the first realm-wide festival of remembrance. A day when no work would be done, when dragon and child would feast on sweetbread, when songs of victory and caution both would fill the air. A day to honor grief without surrendering to it. They would sign it at dawn. For now, there was only quiet, and the distant thunder of dragons playing tag with starlight above a realm that, at least for this breath, this heartbeat, slumbered in peace, free of fire and blood. Okay. The sun beat upon King's Landing with the languor of a lion's breath, thickening the air over cobbled squares and half-finished colonnades. Everything glittered, fresh mortar on the Red Keep's rising east wing, rippling sails on harvest barges, brazen rims of fountains reborn from rubble. Even the dragons dozed in the warmth. Drogon sprawled across a marble terrace, like a shadowy citadel, tail twitching, while Rhaegal balanced on an unfinished tower's stony spine, wings partly unfurled to shoegulls that dared alight near healing scales. Jon had ridden south 3 days earlier to chair the final session of the Midsummer Council, intent upon returning north before autumn's first chill. Yet now, parchment summons arrived with every tide, requests to mediate border quarrels, petitions to inspect levee repairs, invitations to the realm's inaugural day of remembrance. He paced the Tower of Crown's shaded gallery, tempted to refuse them all, until Davos emerged with a bundle of fresh quills and that weary, seasoned half-smile. Too many signatures, Davos teased. A fine problem. A problem nonetheless. Jon muttered. He stared east, through the archway where distant black cliffs rimmed the sea. Sansa warned me peace can starve if fed only ink. Which is why ink comes with roads, grain, and festivals. Davos replied. Sign the writs, then ride. Tyrion arrived, cloak fluttering crimson. Ride where? He asked. The Stepstones demand an envoy. Reports of corsairs raiding Lannisport grain ships. Dornish rumor blames Myrish princes. But Mar says pirates fly a wolf and dragon banner. He flourished a parchment. If someone pretends to be you, we should discourage the impression. Jon rubbed his brow. Everything spreads, even rumors. Daenerys strode in moments later, palms dusted with saw chips and resin. Rumors can rally worse foes than armies, she said, echoing Tyrion's worry. Dragons kept the realm quiet for centuries because no one dared counterfeit them. Now counterfeiters try anyway. Jon scanned the list. I'll sail with Davos 4 days. We'll speak with the Sea Lord of Myr and the captains of Lannisport. If pirates fly my emblem, I'll tear it down myself. Daenerys pinched the bridge of her nose. I should join. Not this time, he answered gently. If both of us leave, councils stall. Stay. Finish the charter addendum for free folk harbor rights. She sighed, wiping dust across her cheek. Very well. She reached for his wrist. Return swiftly. He pressed a kiss to her brow, then pivoted toward the door, yet froze when a Harmonguard drummer thundered alarm on the lower courtyard. Grey Worm's voice followed, short and sharp. All 4 hurried to the balustrade. Dozens of soldiers streamed toward the city's southern gate. At their head trotted 2 outriders bearing a limp flag of white and rust. Jon sprinted down the stairs 2 at a time, meeting Grey Worm at the courtyard's lip. The outriders dismounted. Their armor bore the sunflower sigil of House Ashford, but scorched black by flame. One removed his helm, a boy scarcely 18. Soot streaked his cheeks, terror clouded his eyes. A dragon attacked Ashford, he croaked. Black wings, but not yours. Breathed green fire. He struggled for breath. Stone walls melted to glass. My lord, the thing vanished south again, toward the sunset sea. Dread rippled through Jon. Grey Worm's jaw tightened. Daenerys descended behind them, face pale. How many dead? Not sure, the boy whispered. We fled before the beast returned. Tyrion's mouth parted. Impossible. Only 2 dragons live. Jon turned to Daenerys. Echo sleeps, Bran said. Yet a green flame dragon. Daenerys shook her head. Verdant Echo died in the north. Or escaped as something else, Jon murmured. Rhaegal keened overhead as if echoing the phrase. That evening the Great Hall bustled with tactical council. Arianne Martell reading Shipringer reports. Gendry hunched over Blackwater maps. Sansa conjured grain route contingencies via Raven from Winterfell. Bran's Raven arrived late. Its message austere, 3 words only. Shard took wing. No more. A hush swallowed the council. Tyrion exhaled. Then some fragment of echo forged itself into flesh. A dragon of green shadowglass? Grey Worm gestured to valley maps. It flew southwest. Closest islands: Arbor, Shield Isles, Stepstone Straits. Unsullied cannot reach by sea before weeks pass. Dan. Jon looked to Daenerys. We fly. Night wind trailed in his hair as he and Daenerys mounted their dragons atop the Tower of Crown's dawn platform. Rhaegal, fully healed, rattled plumage of new iridescent membranes. Drogon stretched, hissed challenge tonight. Dawn stained the eastern horizon rose as twin shadows rose above the bay. They braved ocean winds, banking between cloud banks like shadow and comet. By noon the Arbor's green vineyards lay beneath them, lush rose cradling clusters of summer grapes. Jon saw no sign of ruin, though a charred wharf spooled black smoke near the southern cliffs. They circled, cautious. Fishermen waved frantically, pointing west. 3 charred hulks drifted half-submerged in harbor. Daenerys and Jon pressed onward. Late afternoon light turned the Shield Isles tides into sheets of hammered bronze. Here they found devastation. Oakenshield Keep's outer wall had collapsed, half fused by heat unimaginable. Stonework flowed like wax, glimmering translucent. A dozen corpses lay upon battlements, armor melted into flesh. Rhaegal landed beside a half-shattered tower. Jon dismounted, mind reeling at similarities to Valyrian glass. A maester stumbled from a cellar's stair, ringing a cracked bell. "Another dragon," he cried at Jon's arrival. "Send aid, or we are doomed." "How long since the attack?" Jon asked, steadying the man. 3 hours. His voice shook. It came from the sky. Emerald wings, body black as midnight. No rider. It sundered ramparts, then veered west toward the lonely light. Daenerys joined them, silver hair thrashing in wind. She knelt to inspect fused stone. Her fingers recoiled from its chill. "It burns cold," she whispered. "An inversion of fire. Verdant frost." Jon's jaw set. "We give chase." He turned to the maester. "Signal the arbor. Evacuate the shield isles. Gather survivors inland." Drogon and Rhaegal lifted into sun-slashed skies. They streaked across the Ironman's Bay, following pallid green smears of vapor that hovered like after-images. By twilight the lonely light approached, its solitary lighthouse a dreaming candle on the horizon. And there, perched upon the island's black basalt cliff, crouched the creature. It resembled a dragon only in silhouette. Scales of molten glass shimmered emerald and obsidian. Membranes appeared half-translucent, shot through with lines of silver star steel crackling with residual fire. No eyes glowed. Instead, voids of swirling jade smoke stared across the waves. It dwarfed Drogon by a third length, yet seemed unfinished, edges fraying into mist as though reality itself rejected its form. The creature turned as twin dragons roared arrival. Its maw opened. A gout of emerald frostfire erupted, curving toward Rhaegal. Jon felt cold seep through leather as some of the flame grazed his mount. But Mirafang, strapped across Jon's back, glimmered with sudden brilliance. Rhaegal shuddered, then shook off icy ash like water. His own flame burst sapphire white toward the beast, colliding in a swirl of colors that crackled and dissipated. Drogon dove, Daenerys urging caution. But too late. The glass dragon snapped its wings, lifting with unnatural silence, and streaked northward on currents that bent around it like river around rock. Jon signaled pursuit. They crossed the deepening dusk, but the beast outpaced them, gliding as if weightless. It headed for the wall of red sunset that crowned the edge of the world. Jon cursed. Even at Rhaegal's full speed, they could not close distance before night swallowed sight. He glanced to Daenerys. Despair glinted in her eyes, but determination hardened soon after. "We fly it to Pike," she shouted over wind. "Iron Islands give vantage. We regroup there." Exhaustion tugged at dragons. They angled toward the craggy spires of House Greyjoy's seat, arriving under violet skies bruised by dying color. Bonfires scorched atop each tower. War horns moaned. Lord Glover, newly appointed harbormaster by the charter, met them on the storm-lashed causeway, flanked by thralls freed by Daenerys months earlier, but who had chosen to stay and work. Jon wasted no time. A shadow dragon heads north by northwest. It must be turned before it reaches Watchtown or Bear Isle. Glover scowled. Our ravens saw only black stars, but the sea witches whisper of glass storms. They feel death in the spray. And Daenerys paced the basalt rampart, scanning skies for jade flicker. "Prepare signal fires along every island. Send longships with beacon torches. If the creature appears, blind it, draw it earthward. Drogon and Rhaegal can strike on land, not water." Glover bowed. "Aye, my queen." That night Jon and Daenerys stood upon Pike's tallest spike above roaring surf. Salt spray glimmered on their cloaks. "Echo's shard found flesh," Daenerys said, voice low. "Why?" Jon clenched fists. Fear unended. Memory unburied. Maybe the shard devoured grief scattered across the realm. Fires of Ashford, Oakenshield. Perhaps even the ghosts we banished. It built itself from what we thought healed. She laid a hand on his. "Then, we mend deeper." A horn blared. Jade's spark flashed beyond the far dark, tiny yet unmistakable. The creature soared above foam drinkers deep, wings carving sky. Signal fires kindled on outpost islets. Long ships launched, each mast crowned with blazing braziers. Jon mounted Rhaegal. Heart pounding. Daenerys swung onto Drogon. The dragons leapt into star-worn night. They met the beast above a low island, ringed by basalt needles. Fires painted its glass hide sickly green. It bellowed. Sound like cracking glaciers. Drogon closed first, clamping jaws upon translucent shoulder. Teeth skidding across slick obsidian scale. The creature bucked, tail of jagged shards whipping Drogon's flank, scoring gashes that smoked with icy vapor. Daenerys clung, urging retreat, while Drogon roared in pain yet held. Rhaegal struck from above, talons puncturing membrane. Shards shattered, showering glitter across waves. The beast screamed, but no blood flowed. Only vapors swirling away. Jon unstrapped Mirrorfang. Its blade gleamed moonlight and memory. He locked eyes with Daenerys across whirling chaos. She understood. Drogon released the beast, banking wide. Rhaegal hovered eye level with creature's glass orbs. Jon inhaled, spurring forward. He leapt from saddle, landing upon the creature's neck ridges that hummed with unnatural cold. Mirrorfang punched down, glass cracked under the ancient crystal. A vein of green light erupted, coursing along scales. The dragon writhed, wings folding, plummeting toward the basalt spires. Jon held on, driving blade deeper until it met the hollow within, an emptiness where heart should beat. Sudden silence enveloped him. Images assaulted his mind, faces of those lost. Ned kneeling before ice, Varys burning, children crying in Ashford. Echo tried to feed on grief, to drag him into its endless pit. But Jon remembered Moose Camp on the wall, laughter with Sam. Arya's first snowball. Daenerys cradling Rose's broken fingers. Love answered grief. The images brightened, overshadowing pain. Mirrorfang blazed white, severing line of memory inside the beast. The glass dragon shattered in midair, exploding into a cloud of emerald sparks. Jon tumbled earthward among shards. Rhaegal dove, claws snatching him moments before the rocks. Shattered fragments rained into the surf, hissing like dying wraiths. On Pike's cliffs, watchers gasped as green starfall cascaded. Drogon circled, flames searing stray shards into harmless glass. Rhaegal landed atop a wide sea stack. Jon slid from talons, collapsing on knees. Mirrorfang lay beside him, blade dull, the glow spent. Daenerys dismounted, rushing across stone. She knelt, pulling him into trembling embrace. Wind gusted, wicked with salt and triumph. "It's done," he whispered, voice ragged. Daenerys pressed her forehead to his. "Your grief ended it." "Our grief," he corrected. They rose together. Rhaegal trumpeted toward the heavens. No reply but star-scattered silence. Morning sun revealed the coastline littered with glittering fragments. Small folk collected them like seashells. Maesters warned of lingering magic. Arianne advised forging them into watch crystals for lighthouse beacons rather than trinkets. Tyrion quipped that every wine cup in Westeros would soon sparkle, ensuring nightly toasts to the king who killed grief and the queen who forgave it. Grey Worm arrived on the first northbound galley, bearing news. The Day of Remembrance festival was approved unanimously. He delivered to Daenerys a wooden box carved by flea-bottom children. Inside, a single shard of echo polished into a teardrop, set in iron shaped like a budding rose. "They wish to gift the queen memory that heals," he said. She accepted, eyes misted. Jon, meanwhile, met the Ironborn captains assembled in Pike's Yard. He offered them a bargain. Salvage rights to Echo's harmless glass if they pledged escort duty to grain convoys. The captains agreed, eager for profit free of thralls or raid. A new trade route, shimmering with reconciled purpose, was born in the spray. Weeks later, back in King's Landing, the festival dawned. Market stalls lined streets, each hung with banners woven by smallfolk. Direwolf and dragon entwined. Children paraded wearing papier-mâché dragons speckled with glittering shards. Sansa arrived astride a snow-white mare, flanked by free-folk drummers who beat lively rhythms that made even staid lords tap boots. Bran rode beside her, his chair mounted on a special wagon pulled by a gentle sand steed gifted by Arianne. On a platform overlooking the half-rebuilt sept of Baelor, Jon and Daenerys addressed thousands. No throne stood, only two plain oaken stools should they tire. Daenerys spoke first of scars turned to strength. Jon spoke next of chains broken and rebuilt into bridges. Tyrion then read a new proclamation. Every full moon hereafter, bells would ring not for war but for memory, inviting any soul, lord or stable hand, to share songs of loved ones lost, so grief might find echo in community, not in loneliness. After speeches, they mingled freely. Daenerys danced the harvest tilt with Gendry. Jon sparred wooden swords with Arya for children's delight. Grey Worm demonstrated shield drills with free-folk spears. Drogon and Rhaegal hovered overhead in lazy spirals, occasionally swooping low so their wing beats fanned laughter across plazas. At twilight, Bran rolled forward to the plaza's brazier. Jon and Daenerys each placed a single shard of echo into the flames. The glass melted into liquid light that rose like fireflies, drifting upward to mingle with early stars. The crowd gasped at the display. Bran raised his hand, and the lights coalesced into swirling aurora, the shapes of 7 sigils entwining. Dragon, wolf, rose, kraken, sun, trout, falcon. The folk stood silent, tears on many cheeks as the aurora faded into the night. Later, in the quiet of the Tower of Crown's highest balcony, Jon and Daenerys leaned against the parapet. Below them, festival lanterns bobbed on barges in the black water, carrying messages written by small folk, scraps of memory, apology, love. Lanterns drifted seaward like a procession of stars. Daenerys exhaled. When I was a girl in Essos, I thought peace meant sitting upon a throne while quiet reigned outside. Now peace feels like music, children shouting, dragons purring. Jon chuckled. Peace is noise. She pulled his arm around her waist. And you, king without crown, content? I'm a steward masquerading as king, he said. He pointed at lanterns. But a good steward knows lanterns burn out. Tomorrow crises return. Fall storms, sea raids, Highgarden rat infestations. He squeezed her hand. I'm ready. She tilted up, kissing him softly. Then, so am I. They lingered, savoring quiet after celebration. Overhead, Rhaegal settled on the tower's far ledge. Drogon perched facing him, their tails curling together. For an instant, the world seemed fragile as those tails. 2 lines entwined, yet strong. Far away, beyond even the lonely light, the sea sloshed through floating shards still faintly luminous. A lone fisherman in a small skiff scooped one shard into his net, marveling at its glow. He set it at his boat's prow to guide him home, unaware that the piece pulsed once in farewell, then dimmed completely, its power spent. Beneath Winterfell, Mirrorfang rested in bronze-sealed vault. On still nights, a single beam of moonlight found a crack in the iron door, touching the blade's surface, igniting a pulse that matched a dragon's sleeping heartbeat half a realm away. Memory persisted, but it no longer sought to imprison. It guarded. Seasons would turn. Comets would stitch new prophecies across black skies. Yet for now, a realm that had endured storms of fire and tides of ice breathed in unison. Dragons and wolves, glass and flesh, sorrow and laughter. The lanterns drifted ever farther, carrying whispers into dark horizons where peace and peril forever danced, meeting in sparks upon the water, fading, then rising anew. Okay. The breeze that swept across the black water on the morning after the Festival of Remembrance carried the tremulous scent of river flowers and fresh-cut timber, a mingling of sweetness and sap that seemed almost enough to lull the realm into believing its troubles were forever past. Yet ions of salt still drifted up from the bay where shards of the broken echo had been melted into watch lamps. Every scented draft reminded those who had watched dragons clash that even the mildest wind could turn suddenly, rousing old storms. Jon Snow stood at the palace balcony and felt that same tension stir inside him. A restless sense of balances only lately restored, fragile as spun sugar. Beyond the half-rebuilt curtain wall stretched a tapestry of labor. Masons atop scaffold sang rough Dornish shanties while hammering limestone blocks. Dothraki wranglers guided wagon loads of reach straw to line new granaries, and fleets of Westerland's carpenters floated cradles of cedar along the river to be hoisted into the keep's budding roof. Amid this orchestrated chaos, 4 silver bells tolled, once each, summoning the day's first assembly of the small council. Jon released the breath he'd been holding and turned toward the spiral stairs, cloak snapping like a sail. Inside the great council chamber, daylight slanted through mullioned glass, painting the long oak table in stripes of molten gold. Tyrion Lannister perched on a high stool at the far end, quill already poised over parchment. Sansa occupied the northern seat beside Bran's specially carved wheeled dais, reading aloud the text of a proposed charter clause to allow free folk homesteads in the Crown lands. Davos nodded at every third sentence, rubbing his beard as though testing each word for seaworthiness. Arianne Martell lounged to one side, in an ankle-length silk of sunrise gradient, watching with bright eyes that missed nothing. Grey Worm stood behind Daenerys' empty chair, still as a spear, though since the night of the echoes shattering he no longer wore his full helm. The unsullied general's face bore the calm of a wounded man, learning to live unmasked. Jon settled opposite Sansa and cleared his throat. "Apologies," he began, though none required. The walk from the outer wall grows longer with every addition. A smile chased across his features, but fled when Bran's pale gaze lifted. Solemn. Bran spoke first. "The rivers run higher than last spring. Midwife ravens bring word of twin births in Fairmarket, omen of prosperity. Yet the currents shift unpredictably near Seaguard. You will want to send log rafts there more slowly, else they ground." "And now?" Tyrion set down his quill. "Our Greenseer forecasts river tides more precisely than the harbor master," he said wryly. "We should add the position to the charter. Lord Commander of Eddies." Sansa's tone turned gently exasperated. "Just later. We have grain routes to finish before the rainy season." Jon tapped the rolled missive he carried. "And we have other matters. The Watch reports a clutch of freearders near Mull's Town. They burned 2 cabins." He studied the table. One belonged to a wildling family. Davos frowned. "Old grudges. Or new fears," Bran said. "Folk hear tales of glass dragons and recall the long night. Fear curdles quickly when left unskimmed." Daenerys strode in before the room could stew, braids damp from morning's bath, expression brisk but compassionate. "Then we skim it," she declared, sliding into her chair. "We hold a moot at Mull's Town. Let every clan, kneeler and free folk alike, air their grievances while Drogon and Rhaegal circle overhead in silence." Her gaze roamed faces. No demonstration of fire, only presence. Tyrion raised an eyebrow. "A queen's progress through the icy north? If your dragons so much as sneeze, the old north will think you intend conquest." "Then we bring no host," Jon countered. "Only 6 guards and a wagon of winter stores." Generosity softens suspicion quicker than decree. Sansa considered. "We will still need assurance of safety. The Umbers can muster a watch band to keep the peace without seeming to garrison." "Mentrol." Grey Worm inclined his head. "I will accompany with 2 Harmon guards." Daenerys laid a gentle hand on his gauntlet. "You have earned time in the south. Rest." She turned to Arianne. "You will join, Princess? Your knack for reading tempers could prove invaluable." Arianne smiled like sunrise catching steel. "Dorne loves a northern chill so long as it melts before noon." "I will come." "Men-Narawa." With that settled, the council turned to the less dramatic, more protracted business of calibrating tariffs between Iron Isle's glass shipments and Lannisport grain convoys. Jon endured the discourse until midday bells signified adjournment. Papers rattled, chairs scraped. Davos lumbered toward ramparts to supervise loading of quinces bound for Bravos, while Tien scribes retrieved wax tablets from a sideboard, capturing every amendment. Jon caught Daenerys' arm as she rose. "Walk with me before afternoon's petitions?" She nodded. They slipped out a side arch, descending to the keep's herb terrace. A series of descending gardens carved into the hillside where high valerian roses perfumed the sun-warmed air. Seeds had been a gift from the city's orphanage, each child contributing a pinch from their allocated garden plot. Now pale pink blossoms burst like dawn's blush against the gray stone. They paced between rosemary hedges while bees trembled about them. "I dreamed last night," Daenerys said abruptly. "No flames, no glass. Just a field of wheat taller than Drogon's shoulder and children running between stalks." One child turned and her eyes were violet. "Da." Jon watched a bee settle on her sleeve, turning circles around gold embroidery. Visions can show desires as well as warnings. Sometimes I don't trust the difference. She brushed the bee away. "Do you?" He considered. "When the wall fell, I dreamed only of darkness. Yet we live in light today." He touched her arm. "Hope can be fragile, but not false." She exhaled. "Then hope will guide Mole's town." A shadow flickered overhead. They glanced up as Rhaegal flapped leisurely across the sky. Drogon trailing. "Still, they answer each other," she murmured. "One day their eggs may hatch." Jon tensed. Dragons breeding again could change everything. Yet he smiled. "We will teach hatchlings to breathe flame only when needed, and to sleep when the stars are bright." She laughed softly. "Spoken like a father." He flushed. "A steward of eggs?" "Perhaps both." She took his hand, twining fingers. "Come." The petitioners gather. In the great courtyard, a makeshift dais had been erected beneath twin banners. Direwolf and Dragon. At its base gathered a dozen envoys representing borderlands, free folk leaders in patched leathers, and merchants whose livelihoods wove through both. Jon and Daenerys seated themselves on wooden stools. No dais separated them from those who spoke. "Grey Worm," announced each petitioner. "Dalla, of the Frostbite Ridge." A tall woman with braids of raven hair stepped forward, tattoos spiraling down her arms. "The river road near the Queen's Crown still floods," she said. "We lost 3 wagons last thaw. Promise was to raise a stone bridge before next freeze." Then Daru. Sansa, seated at Jon's left, pulled a ledger. The masons from Barrowton reported shortages of lime mortar. Davos, returning from the harbor, interjected. "We have surplus limestone arriving from the Shield Isles. Delay owed to storms. Ships dock tomorrow." Jon rose halfway. "If lime reaches by week's end, bridge crews can lay foundation before the first frost. I will personally inspect progress when we ride north." Dalla inclined her head. "Words carved with deeds," she said. She stepped aside. Next came Roper Pate of the Crownlands, complaining of tunnels dug by Riverlander miners, collapsing under dragon tremors. Gendry, newly appointed Master of Works, offered reinforced timber struts and quake mortises used in Dornish cliff homes. The solution drew nods. So the council went on. Disputes of grazing rights between Hornwood and Mormont shepherds. A plea from the Order of Maester Smiths to standardize grain weight measures. An argument over whether the Day of Remembrance lantern's tallow should be rendered from goat or candlefish. Through each, Jon and Daenerys chose compromise over edict, coaxing breath from rigid corners. Mid-session, Bran's raven alighted on the dais rail, head cocked. Tyrion relieved it of a tiny scroll. Reading, he cleared his throat. A copy reads thus: "Eyes in the east glimpse, sails black as char rolling for the stepstones. The truce of Myr unravels. Expect corsairs within moon's turning." Signed, Gisela of Fair Isle, Admiral of the Western Fleet. Tyrion raised brows. Forewarning. We'll need escort squadrons." Daenerys asked. "How many ships remain after Stepstone reconstruction?" Davos replied. 6 war dramans under Greyjoy banners. 4 long galleys from Highgarden. Enough if we dispatch swiftly." Jon offered. "Let Rhaegal and Drogon scout ahead. Dragons deter raiders better than steel. But we cannot leave the north uncovered." Sansa countered. "The free folk moot demands our presence soon. We cannot divide." Tension tightened around the dais. Grey Worm's deep voice sliced through. "Harmenguard stands ready to escort long galleys. Rhaegal and Drogon patrol skies above the ships. but may land at Mole's Town in time for moot. Medina. Jon met Daenerys' eyes. After a heartbeat she nodded. So ordered. Dispatch at dusk. 5 days later, twilight painted the wall with streaks of mauve and copper as Jon and Daenerys, flanked by a lean retinue, rode into Mole's Town. Long houses had sprouted from the earth in the months after the long night, like saplings from ash. Structures of dark pine beams and gray fieldstone shutters, draped with firs and carved glyphs of both Old Tongue and Free Folk runes. Smoke curled from half-shuttered smoke holes. Children scampered alongside horses, cheering at the sight of dragons circling high. Jon dismounted near a communal hearth encircled by benches and log stumps. He recognized Tormund Giantsbane towering among a cluster of wildlings, fiery beard wagging as he gestured. He wore a bearskin trimmed with red. Tormund roared laughter at Jon's approach. "Look who brings the summer south of my beard." He clapped Jon's back with bone-jarring force. "We didn't start any bonfires while you were gone." "Well, not the dangerous kind." Jon smiled. "Good. There may be enough tonight anyway." "Nah." A hush rippled as Daenerys stepped forward, cloak of white, trimmed in icewolf fur gifted by Sansa the previous winter. Some free folk murmured, recalling the burning of ash long ago. Tormund raised both arms. "This is the dragon lady who rides flame but offers bread," he bellowed. "Give her your ears, if not your hearts." At the hearth circle, benches filled quickly. Wildling elders sporting antler necklaces, Crownland farmers with gently sown fields, rangers of the watch, and Manderly envoys bearing sacks of salt cod. A council of sorts formed without ceremony, just cold, flickering lamplight and the creak of pine as wind slipped beneath eaves. Daenerys spoke first. "I come to listen." A grizzled wildling named Skyr Strengthane jabbed a gnarled finger. "Free folk haven't forgot when dragons torched Hardhome's Bay." "Memory burns." Murmurs followed. Jon answered, "Memory can guide or trap. We choose guide." He gestured in offer. A Crownlands herder complained of sheep poached in the frost fields. Tracks pointed to free folk camps. A young wildling argued it was stray goats stealing grain. Tension rose. Tormund cracked a keg of pine ale and passed cups to keep tongues loose but tempers softer. Grey Worm stood sentinel, speaking only when asked. Hours passed. Grievances peeled back to insecurities. Fear of being pushed off land as more houses resettled. Fear of assimilation dissolving old ways. Fear of dragons above. Bran, present in spirit through a raven perched on Jon's shoulder, fluttered wings each time conversation threatened to curdle. He cawed once. Jon interpreted. The raven reminds. Land is long. Memory is longer. There's room for all if we draw lines in kindness, not iron. Now. Finally, an elder called Otala Stoneknife spoke. Borders cross only bodies. The wind and ravens do not heed fences. We should trade stories, not just livestock. Let children of Kneelers learn the Old Tongue. Let free folk learn Raven's script. Daenerys nodded. We will sponsor a schoolhouse here. One teacher from Old Town, one singer from the Frostfangs. They'll teach letters and runes, songs of both. She met Skyr's wary gaze. And I pledge no dragonfire north of Queenscrown, unless sworn by joint council in defense. Skyr spat into the snow. We'll remember that promise, Queen. She bowed her head. A hush lingered, then softened into murmurs of assent. A council of 8 was elected. 4 Kneelers, 4 free folk. To settle disputes until harvest. Bran named the group the Hearthstone Circle. Jon suggested meeting monthly at full moon. With tensions eased, mead horns passed freely. Night deepened. Stars wheeled. Drogon and Rhaegal glided in lazy loops above the village, wingtips brushing argent moonlight. Near dawn, when the last arguments had given way to yawns, Jon and Daenerys retired to a modest loft in the watchtower gifted by the rebuilt Night's Watch. Icicles framed the narrow window. Jon banked the hearth while Daenerys peeled off her gloves. The room smelled of pine pitch and fresh straw. She watched him from the edge of the cot. We make progress, she whispered. eyes luminous in fire glow. Jon crossed the floor, kneeling to unlace her boots. We mend, one plank at a time. He leaned in. She cupped his face, cool fingers brushing the scar by his ear. Their kiss was slow, unhurried, snow melting on coals. They woke after dawn to Bran's raven tapping knuckles on the shutters. Jon cracked the window. Frostbit air rushed in. A small scroll tied to the bird's leg bore the Stark seal. He eased it free, unfolding Bran's perfect lettering. Tides shift again. A whisper rides the narrow sea. Three-eyed raven of legends, seen walking among the islands of Ibetai. Could be only sailor tales. Yet keep eyes westward. Storms seldom ask permission. Jon frowned. Daenerys read over his shoulder. Another omen. He sighed. Peace resembles rowing upstream. Always currents. She rested a hand on his spine. Then we keep rowing. Their return south found King's Landing transformed by weeks' labor. The Red Keep's east wing bore scaffolds up to the third floor now, and the new sept rose like a white lily from the remnants of Baelor's shattered dome, its half-finished pillars shimmering in the midday sun. Smoke from countless forges tinted the air with an iron tang. Tyrion greeted them in the court hall with a sheaf of letters. Corsair threat quelled, he crowed, pride and fatigue warring in his eyes. Greyjoy Dramans escorted grain convoys. Dragons overhead ensured not a single bolt loosed. He handed Jon an ebony scroll case. Admiral Gisela enclosed a gift. Silver flensing knife said to have gutted the last pirate lord who attempted to fly your sigil. Jon set the knife aside. Let it hang in the harbor tower for sailors to remember honesty. Daenerys turned to Grey Worm. You look weary. He bowed. There were losses. 2 Harmon guards washed overboard in storm. But cargo delivered. She rested a palm on his shoulder. We honor them at next bell toll. Arya arrived in traveling leathers dusted with dogwood pollen. Word from Riverlands. River Run petition to host Cross River Market. Wants joint charter for toll-free trade once a month. Approved, Jon said before Tyrion could object to lost dues. Arya smirked. Arianne produced another letter sealed with a flame-shaped sigil. Cohor blacksmiths have completed the mold for the Dawn Gate arch. They ask if dragons will breathe upon the metal as blessing. Daenerys shook her head faintly. Symbolic flame is enough. We show restraint. Nenda soul. Tyrion scribbled amendments. It will be my life's grandest footnote. Hand of the Queen, author of the restraint clause. Ah well, some aim for glory. I aim for footnotes. Night fell. Lanterns glimmered. Jon found himself alone atop the high parapet where once the shards fell. He leaned on the cool stone, staring out across the city's flickering lattice. Though triumphs piled high a scaffold, he felt unsettled, like a wolf in new territory sniffing unknown scents. Footsteps approached, lighter than unsullied tread. Bran's chair rolled to his side, Arya pushing gently. Thought you might be brooding, Arya said. Jon half smiled. I brood less these days. Debatable, she teased, then sobered. Bran wants to speak. She retreated, leaving them alone with the wind. Bran's pale gaze met Jon's. The future slides like river ice. Many channels form. Some freeze, some flow. We may guide currents but cannot stop melt. Jon blew out a breath. Cryptic as ever. The raven seen near Ib. If true, the past may send more echoes. Bran's voice lowered. The Shard's dragon fed on grief. Others could feed on different hungers. We must teach the realm, with patience, to temper all desires, not just fear. Then, Jon pressed palm to the stone. We can't police every shore. The realm must stand on its own legs. It will, Bran said. But legs learn by stumbling. When they stumble, hold out a hand, not a sword. Jon nodded, understanding. And what of you? Ever wander from your chair? Bran's distant smile warmed. I wander always, and yet I remain. They shared silence, the way siblings share a hearth without speaking. Down in the yard, Daenerys practiced with a training spear, opposite Grey Worm, both moving in slow arcs. Sparks flew when shaft met shield rim, but laughter rose between strikes, a soft sound rarely heard from either fighter. Jon watched for a moment, chest tightening with a mix of love and awe. Bran observed, eyes reflecting candlelight. "She fears repeating the old fire," Bran remarked. "She won't," Jon replied. "The realm would stop her first. And I would remind her." Bran tilted his head. "You remind each other. That is balance." The bells atop the new sept chimed in the distance, first testing of the bronze. Jon straightened. Dawn soon. Another council session. He turned to Bran. "Rest tonight, little brother. Tomorrow we row again." Bran chuckled. Small and clear. Row with strong strokes. Jon Snow. Months passed with the measured certainty of a sundial across well-kept gardens. Maester calendars soon heralded the passing of autumn's equinox. Grain storehouses swelled. The Dawngate arch soared, sealed with a smear of dragon blood rather than flame, symbol and promise both. The Free Folk schoolhouse at Mole's Town finished its sod roof, and children there learned letters beside runes, weaving new songs that married old tongue cadence with Reach ballad melody. A whalebone lute became the favorite instrument, its body carved into a coiled dragon and wolf entwined. When played, the notes twined likewise, low hums punctuated by bright trills, like heartbeats overlapping. Yet, challenges persisted. A plague of locusts in the Dornish marches threatened vineyards. Arianne oversaw deployment of roosting sparrowhawks. A lightning-sundered oak in the Kingswood revealed a warren of giant spiders large as hounds. Huntsmen joined Harmenguard to cull nests before they reached villages. A band of sellswords smuggling sword steel through Harrenhal attempted to stage a coup in Maidenpool, until Sansa's swift ravens summoned North and Vale reinforcements, ending the plot with little blood. Perhaps the greatest trial arrived in the form of hunger. Not within Westeros, but across the sea. Famine swept the free cities after an ill-timed frost blighted olive harvests. Braavos, Myr, and Lys each sent envoys pleading grain. In the council chamber, debate raged. Tyrion argued for measured charity. "We cannot empty our barns bailing out coin lords who once bankrolled slavers." Davos, ever the sailor, countered, "A hungry neighbor soon becomes a pirate. Better to feed their bellies than fight their ships." Sansa calculated stores. "Winter may be mild, but we risk our own reserves if we send ships before first snowfall." Jon listened. "Dao." "Listened?" Daenerys finally said. "The world narrows when hunger expands. We share some portion, enough that a child in Lys sees Westerosi bread and learns friend, not conqueror." Tyrion conceded. A compromise forged. 200 river barges laden with barley to Braavos, matched by medical supplies for Westeros' leper colonies. Myr would receive 5 convoys escorted by dragons to deter raiders. Lys would barter dyes and silk at reduced rates. The day the first shipment sailed, Rhaegal and Drogon accompanied the flotilla to mid-ocean, wings casting elongated shadows across whitecaps. Children on Lysine decks raised arms, crying, "Green Wing," in wonder. Sailors of Westeros and free cities alike recorded these moments in journals to share with grandchildren. Though triumphs tallied, old ghosts occasionally surfaced. On a mist-laden morning, Jon rode alone through the ruins of Summerhall, a detour on his route to inspect Storm's End levees. Columns half-melted by wildfire and time lay like toppled giants across the dew-soaked grass. Sparrows nested in cracks, where Aegon V's dreams had once towered. Jon dismounted, brushing moss from a shattered stair. He closed his eyes, hearing faint echoes of laughter and screams wetted by tragedy. Rhaegal settled behind him with a huff, curling protectively. Jon ran fingertips over scorched stone. "Promises fall if built on fire," he murmured. He gathered charred fragments, small tokens to remind the small council why restraint mattered, and tucked them into his saddlebag. As they departed, the ruins glowed peach beneath sunrise, a bittersweet monument. At King's Landing, Daenerys greeted his return with another petition. The Citadel requested permission to study Mirrorfang, offering to station an Archmaester within Winterfell to oversee safeguarding. Jon hesitated. Sansa's raven carried caution. Bran remained silent, though his raven circled. In council, debate split. Tyrion. Scholars may unravel truths useful against future threats. Arya. Or study themselves into making more shards. Grey Worm. Guard cannot risk artifact leaving northern vaults. Daenerys sided with caution. Knowledge without purpose invites folly. Ultimately, they invited the Archmaester to Winterfell under Bran's supervision, but Mirrorfang would remain sealed, symbol of vigilance. On the eve before winter's first snow in King's Landing, Jon and Daenerys ascended the nearly completed Dawn Gate Tower. Fog veiled the city below, lanterns gleaming like pearls. They wrapped themselves in a single cloak as cold settled. "Think we've done enough?" Daenerys asked, voice hushed. Jon followed drifting embers from a brazier below. "Enough for now. Tomorrow we'll ask more." She leaned into him. "What tomorrow do you wish?" He chuckled. "One where Bran writes no ominous messages, Tyrion drafts no 30-clause treaties, and dragons nap without someone shouting, 'Pirates!'" A full smirk. "Unlikely. A man can wish." They watched the fog swirl. Quiet enveloped them until a faint bell sounded from the harbor, routine shift change. Yet Jon felt a stirring, like a distant drum. He peered north. Clouds banked heavy beyond the black water. He sensed no threat, just the endless wheel. Daenerys whispered, "If ever the wheel turns cruel again, promise you'll stop me before I break." He squeezed her hand. "You would stop yourself. Promise anyway." He kissed her hair. "I promise." Rhaegal's roar echoed from distant ramparts, answered by Drogon, two notes mingling, low and content. The wheel groaned on, but tonight its spokes glinted silver, aglow beneath the waxing moon. Deep in the crypts of Winterfell, Mirrorfang glimmered faintly once more beneath a sliver of moonlight. Bran, alone and silent, reached out a hand, but did not touch the glassy blade. He listened to the whisper of roots, the hum of ravens beyond, and heard only silence where once grief had sung. He smiled, closed his eyes, and whispered to whatever future might listen, "Remember this peace. So when storms rise again, you will know its shape and seek it." The candle at his side burned low. He wheeled back, leaving the dagger to dream of a realm that, for now, slumbered in imperfect but steadfast harmony. Hearts stitched together by the shared memory of ice's bite and fire's fury, forever wary of both, forever deserving of dawn.